Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Today's lesson is about how to fill up your sketchbook. When I first started buying sketchbooks when I was younger, I wanted to fill them up with all kinds of really cool critters and weapons and environments and creatures and such. And then when I started to open the sketch pages up and I started to place lines down, I immediately hated what I put down. So then it forced me to either erase what was on there and ruin the coating of the paper, or it forced me to rip out the page, put an X on whatever I drew, or just completely abandon the sketchbook entirely. And I had all of these decent sketchbooks with tons of pages in there, basically forgotten, and there were stacks of them. You know, and at the time my parents were buying my sketchbooks for me, and they were spending some good money on it, and I just never really went forward with filling anything up. And then as I started to practice and I got older, I started to realize that if I just took a step back and reevaluated my mindset going into drawing, that's when everything changed. So I'm going to give some tips today on how to fill up your sketchbook. And the number one thing that I can say is stop worrying about filling up your sketchbook. You're already psyching yourself out. And that is, it's way easier said than done. Let's be honest here. But you're psyching yourself out to the point of an unneeded desire for perfection. So what happens is when you start putting lines down on a brand new sketch page and it's not to your liking, you immediately start questioning your ability. You get mad and you close it. Worst yet, you stop drawing. Okay, and I know that a lot of you listening right now are probably in that boat where you have just given up drawing, or you've always thought about getting back into it, but you kind of lost that desire and you just never have picked up a pencil to try it again. Well, that's one of the main reasons why I even have this channel. Okay, yeah, I teach people advanced shading techniques and making things look pretty and stuff, but it just all boils down to changing a mindset about how you approach drawing in general. Because drawing itself is supposed to be therapeutic. It's not supposed to be a chore or something that you don't look forward to. And I've mentioned it in videos before. I mean, if you consider it a chore and you're stressed out, maybe you shouldn't be drawing. Maybe you should be doing something else until you're ready to tackle this. What I'm doing here is I'm just throwing lines together and I'm forming a creature where I didn't have any real intent behind it. It's just big beastly quadruped, long neck, thick neck, smaller head. Maybe it could be a kind of a hero boss or something, I don't know. But I'm just having fun with this. Now with me, of course, my trick of the trade is creature design and then character design. But really you can tackle your sketchbook with any subject matter. So one of the ways that I like doing it, and I gave you the number one reason, just stop worrying about it. But two, you have all of this space, all of this real estate that you just continue to leave blank. And it almost becomes like an eyesore, even if you have cool drawings on there. Like you could have one cool drawing and then look at your page and go, man, there's so much else, so many other things that I could be putting on this sketch page, but either I'm too lazy or my mind is freaking out and I just want to put something else. When you start letting your ideas flow, because you can see that in my other videos, please check the playlist for drawing and also creature design, where I just scribble. I'll put different types of sketches in there, some with color, some not. Like I have no idea what I'm drawing here. What is that thing? Kind of like a wolf head? I don't know. It is a mammal, I know that. Also, I'm not to really cut myself off, but this is a black Prismacolor pencil. I keep things simple. I don't like using a lot of pencils. It just muddies the water. If you practice enough, it does take time, okay? But if you practice enough, you'll be able to draw with just one pencil and achieve light, medium, and dark lines to create depth, atmospheric perspective, nice shading, nice line work, line quality, etc. Okay, and that's easier said than done, but it's all about mileage. Okay, and I'm just having a lot of fun here, putting in some muscle tone. I'm not spending gobs and gobs of time on any particular body part. I'm just kind of letting it happen. And putting some hands in there. Just exaggerating the pose a little bit. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing in this lesson as you're following along with me, by the way, if you have a sketchbook right now and it's open, start scribbling along with me. But what I'll be doing is I'll be filling this one page up with sketches, and there's no clear intent behind it. Over here, I have a more finished one. Okay, this is just this big creature, and I think I named him Carl. I don't even know if I showcased Carl in another video, but this is ballpoint pen. This did have intent. I had a thought in mind of what I wanted the creature to be, and then kind of, it's a little different than what was in my head, but it happened, and I'm pretty happy with it. But that's the size of a human compared to Carl. So everybody say hi to Carl. Okay, so now we're here. All right, so you can see that if you want to fill up a sketchbook, give yourself enough space to have other smaller little doodles in there. Also, you want to feel good about the way your sketch pages look, right? I mean, who doesn't? Like, if you're an artist, even if nobody is going to be looking at your sketchbooks for anything, it's not a school assignment, you just want to feel good about what you're doing. And a lot of times we just think what we draw looks like crap. And we think we suck, and then we just stop drawing. We start blaming everybody else, and then we'll get on ArtStation and look at all of our favorite artists and go, oh, my stuff is never going to look like that. I suck. Stop that. That's that mindset shift that needs to happen. There we go. I need to sharpen my pencil, by the way. Yeah, for the longest time, when I sharpen my pencil on these videos, I'm thinking, I wonder if I should cut that sound out because it startles people. But I feel if I warn people ahead of time that, hey, I'm going to go sharpen my pencil now, then they don't get as freaked out. Because I don't know how loud you guys hold the volumes on your videos when you're watching these. All right, there we go. So here, I drew a mammal over here, kind of a big boss creature. Notice how on my sketch page, there's some space in between each drawing. So here's the corner of the page up here. There's a little bit of empty space. I had a fighter jet, some kind of weird plane that I drew in pen, and then I stopped. I think I had to go that day. I don't really remember what happened, but I knew I was going to come back to this page. And then down here, I'm going to draw this bug with some space in between to rest our eye. So that's how you can make an attractive sketch page too. It's all about resting the eye. It's same thing happens when you do armor for a character. I mean, I've been in the boat where I've drawn a character before and the armor is just way too busy and there's not enough space in the artwork for the eye to rest. So you want your eye to rest. I'm saying that as I'm scribbling the crap out of this creature. Oh man. I gotta take my own advice while I'm telling everybody else how to draw, right? Alright. I don't have my tea today. I did a video a couple days ago on how to use tea stains. And I was gonna drink my tea before this, just to get that little caffeine boost. I used to take pre-workout and that stuff, because I work out all week. You don't realize what that does to your heart. So if anybody's taking pre-workout, just be very careful with that stuff. If you get up past 250, 300 milligrams of caffeine in one scoop, be careful. Drink your water. So you can see here, I'm just scribbling on some shapes. I don't really know how much detail I want to put in these either. I don't need much, because at the end of the day, I'm not drawing this to impress anybody. I'm drawing this to show you all the importance of not caring about what you draw. Have you ever noticed that everything we do in life, doesn't matter what it is, everything we do when we're trying to practice something, instruments, video games, it doesn't matter. When you don't think about it as much and you just do it without obsessing, memorizing things, you actually do a better job. That's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm not caring about shading ability and doing it 3-4 different, positions or whatever. Another fun thing about using these scribbles and loose line work for your drawings and to fill up a sketchbook is that it happens really quickly. So, I mean, to be fair, art takes a lot of patience, but most artists have the attention span of a goldfish, and we don't really like to sit through design phases and iterations and numbering things to get our best designs. We just want things really quickly, which is why we get mad when something doesn't have what we want right away, so then we move to the next drawing. I'm going to try a little experiment here. I'm just going to take some Copic marker. I love Copic markers just because the vibrancy. I used to use these back in the day. There we go. Add a little bit of color on there, and you can't have a good insect without some spots on the back. Okay, and then to top it all off, why don't we put some orange in here? I don't know where to put it. Maybe on the back. Let's see what that looks like. Right in between the red. Oh yeah, that looks kind of neat. If you're drawing a deadly insect, definitely reds, blacks, oranges. You can think about the poison dart frogs and just look at their patterning. But it's really cool. The other great thing about Copic markers is that it sits on top of pencil really well. It's one of the few markers that actually does a good job with that. Just want to mix in some of these colors. Okay, and if you want to make your sketch feel solid, one of the good ways is to add some type of shadow on the very bottom of their appendages and then make it look like it's connected to the ground. So what we'll do is we'll scribble in, brush in some shadow right underneath the body. All right. So this is a good warm-up. Notice how when I started with this creature and I moved to this one, I ended up liking this one more. So there we go. Now the next thing that we can do if we want to fill up a sketch page and just feel good about what we're doing, we can do stuff really small too. Differentiating the sizes of your sketches within your sketch page, that also is a big help. Not only does it add interest, but it also allows you to experiment with different silhouettes that you normally wouldn't mess with. We all have our comfort zones when we draw, like shapes that we know that we're going to get to at some point. Oh my gosh, I was drawing off screen there. Here I am looking down on my sketch page, and I'm looking up the camera to make sure you're on. I'm sorry. Anyway, what was I saying? I totally lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, so silhouettes, different shapes that you normally wouldn't do. Ooh, these are kind of gross because they look very jellyfish-like. One movie I definitely want to see again is Arrival. I love the alien creatures in Arrival. Just thought that movie was really, really well done. But I was thinking this one reminded me of that, like the big octopus-like tentacles they had and then the big legs and stuff. I don't know why I'm thinking of an octopus. Maybe it's because of this back head right here. So what I'm doing is I'm approaching this sketch a little differently. I'm paying a lot of attention to the outer silhouette just to see what happens. I'm not drawing any eyes. So what's happening now is I'm having a pretty cool looking sketch page erupting right as we speak. And that's what's supposed to happen. And I'm not thinking about this stuff either. I'm just kind of letting shapes fall where they may. If you're drawing along with me, that's great. Another tip on filling up your sketch page is think about what makes you happy. What that means is don't draw stuff because you think somebody else needs to see that. Draw stuff that actually makes you happy. If you ever wanted to get a job or land freelance work, even as a hobby and you wanted to sell your work, random people off the street buying your stuff, they're going to see the love that you put in your art. They're going to know if somebody is doing something without love. When I go to Chipotle and somebody makes me a burrito and I see that they're putting love into that thing, I'm really happy. I'll tell them, I'm like, you really know how to wrap a burrito. Thank you. And I enjoy that burrito. So the same thing happens with art. If I see somebody post art and it looks like they ignored tropes and they didn't create the art because they think that's what they have to do and they did it because they want to, it speaks volumes. You know, that's why I love the artist Nick Pominski, or aka Piotr Jablonski, because he's been my favorite artist for years now. Very creepy style. His lighting is some of the best I've ever seen in the world. Just great stuff. He does stuff for Dishonored. He's done stuff for Halo. Just really good stuff. And Destiny. Wow. What is that thing? I don't know what that is. Let me move this up here so you can actually see it. I don't even think it bites. It's just kind of floating there. Maybe it floats on some kind of planet where the gravity isn't all that great. There we go. So notice, too, that my line weight is differentiating between my sketches. Okay, I've only used this one pencil. You can't even erase black Prismacolor. Okay, so I want you guys to get out of the habit of erasing because you think you need to. Don't erase. There is a time and place to erase, yes, but very rarely do you need to do it all the time. And I think people erase too much and then they end up ruining their drawings. But anyway, that's like a rant that I've gone on before and I don't want to go on in this video. But you can see here that I'm just pushing harder and releasing pressure in short controlled bursts to I can't even talk. I want to say so much to you guys. I'm doing this because I want to show you the different divots and everything in the body. I have more Copic markers. Copic? Copic. I have more markers here. Let me open a green. Let's see what happens when we put a green in here. Okay. Let's put some green. Oh, that looks kind of good. I didn't know how green would look on top of the moleskin paper, but apparently it's looking pretty good. I believe moleskin uses or has marker paper, but I could be wrong. I've only ever bought their regular sketch pages for graphite and stuff. There we go. That's kind of neat. All right, let's see what happens. We got to get something to counteract that color. Hold on just a second. I'm going to take... Oh man, this is a very vibrant... Yeah, there we go. Get some blue in there. Somebody's got some motorcycles outside. Maybe you guys can hear that. Again, I'm just thinking of the poison dart frogs in the jungles. Thinking, what cool color combination that would be if we were to just put it on there. That thing is gross looking. Okay, I'm going to have to use the brush tip. Let's see what happens if we lightly color the tip. Oh, well, so much for lightly coloring it. I have... Uh-oh. Wait, let's see if we can work with this. Okay, I think this is doable. If you ever do this in one of your sketch pages, which is another point that I want to make, if you want to fill up your sketch page without freaking out and messing it up, if you do something that you didn't expect and you think it ruined the entire page, think of it as a happy accident. Okay, so that actually looks kind of cool, and I did not expect that. Okay, so if I have this theme happening with little tiny membranes or shapes, maybe I can put... No, it's too busy up there. I'm not going to do it up there. Got you got brother and sister over here too. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't number these. How dare I? 1, 2, and then we'll do 3, 4, 5. Okay, so there's 5 right away. I got to sharpen my pencil too. Okay, let's move on. I don't have that much space left, so you can do whatever you want with this page. or the page that you're drawing on too. Just be careful that you're spacing these out enough to give yourself enough room to have your hand flowing nicely. Let's do, how about another mammal, but in this case, it's a very weird shape, almost like a slug mixed with a dragon. Just a very fat body. This is really nasty. Put a tail on it. Let's see what happens. But we got to give it a cool head. So let's give it a cool head. And you know what I'm going to say? Those of you that are familiar with how I address people when I draw creatures is, please name these. It looks like there should be some arms there, but I'm not going to put any arms. Instead, I'm going to have this really weird looking head. I don't even know if that perspective is correct. Let me look over it. Yeah, that's decent. Okay, I can live with that. All right, so you see here how I'm trying to really fill these gaps in on the page. Like gaps as in little areas, little pockets of space where I can add to the sketches, but without them becoming overwhelming. And here I'm getting this opportunity I see where this creature is not only worm-like, but centipede-like, insectoid, a little bit mammalian, and I guess subterranean, if you want to say that it digs. And the face looks like a fighter jet. You could even say that the face looks a little Evangelion. That perspective is very twisted because I did not do that correctly. Let me double check. So this is the way to double check. I'm going to sit over it. Sit over. Okay, so it's going up like that. Okay, that's pretty decent. We'll just keep it at that. All right, and little arms coming out. So I'm going to approach this creature the same way that I did our friend up here, who, by the way, if you want to name our friend or friends, comment below and see what names you guys can come up with. I'm going to ask this every time I do creatures, and it's so much fun seeing the names. So I'm just kind of scribbling on shapes to see what works, what doesn't. I am not worrying about making mistakes. I don't have a creature silhouette in mind that I'm trying to put on paper perfectly. I'm just letting the lines come out. Okay, and that's what I want you guys to do also. Let the lines come out. Put shapes down that you normally would not catch yourself ever putting down. For example, I'm just going to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm just going to put a bunch of spheres on the back. I don't know what that is. Are those babies? Are those baby sacks? Those could be. There's a big sphere on the side. That's kind of neat. So the tips of these arms will probably have to be darker so they can show up against the scribbles. So we can add some depth in here without going overboard. And a lot of these sketches are going to be random. So when even if you're doing characters too, with your struggles with anatomy and such, they're going to be random. So you're going to have body parts going everywhere that you don't really know what's happening. That's okay. Remember, your sketchbook is your diary. Okay, you're not doing this for anybody else but yourself. So if you have something that you're trying to work on, be it perspective, anatomy, nature, portraits, etc., whatever, please know that you're going to get there. You're going to get there by doing these. These as in thumbnails. And those of you that aren't familiar with me, I'm a creature and character designer for games and film. I've been doing it for about a decade. And I also mentor people on how to draw in general. If you're an aspiring concept artist and you're trying to learn the ins and outs of the industry, you're trying to get a job, you're struggling, you don't really know how to take the next step, I can help you with that. If you check the pinned comment and also the links in the description below, you can visit my website, creaturedesignworkshop.com, which is also the name of our Discord. That's where I hold all mentorships and workshops. If you want to find out more information about it. You can also directly email me at, I can't even talk today, bobbyrebholz@gmail.com. Okay, there we go. See, nothing fancy. That would be an area that I would just want to jump in and go, oh, I got to shade it. I got to shade it. But it's not going to happen. Instead, I'll just scribble on the possibility of shading without actually shading. Some of you might consider this shading, and it's like, no. No, it's not shading. It's rather... Okay, yeah, it is shading. Oh, man, you caught me. I caught myself. There's that center line going down the belly. It's all these thoughts. It's all these thoughts in my head, and I want to tell everybody everything. And I get so excited. This one is not friendly. So you know what that means. There's going to be a fiery red or maybe an orange involved. Okay, put a little bit of shine on it. A little reflector. A little bit of a little highlight. Leave that there. Ooh, I like that. That's cool. Let's do the same thing with here. And these little sacks. They could be see-through gelatinous poison sacks, I guess. Man. I like the orange against the pencil and no other color. What do you guys think? I think that's kind of neat. I don't really have anything darker than that. I mean, I could add a brown. Let's see what that looks like. Because that might work. Or actually, no. Take that back. Let's add in this purple. Okay, and let's add it near the base. Okay, and then sparingly whip up some of that purple into that poison sac. Okay, that's adding what could be a little core shadow there. So maybe underneath the outer shell of these sacs, there's an underlying purple membrane. That just sounded so scientific, didn't it? It did. It did. But I need patterns to repeat. So that means that a little bit of this orange is going to show up on different parts of the body. And I want to make sure that it is intentional. So if there's a pattern that I can follow on certain body parts, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, and the orange is showing up very well against the parts of the page where there aren't a lot of markings. Okay, so maybe, you know, the technique that I did when I dotted the belly or the shell of that creature up there, I think I'm going to do the same thing down here, but just put in a little bit more of a pattern. There we go, and then start it on the other side. But nothing too fancy, just an indication. Okay, that'll work. Great, and last but not least, there's space over here. Oh, I got to sharpen my pencil. All right, so let's see what we can do. Oh, after we number this, of course. So that's number 6. Look at that, guys. I filled up that page in no time at all. So let's see what happens when we just add in some crazy shapes over here. What is this thing? Looks like Casper. I don't know. Oh, I got the idea of this probably from that. Like that disgusting sack floating in the air. So we'll see. Maybe I should add to that little critter. Because if these are little babies floating around, then maybe this is the adolescent version. But this also, that doesn't look good. Let's see what happens when we put 2 tubes going from, I guess, the head. Oh, maybe a 3rd tube. There we go. This thing is kind of gross, huh? Okay, what would you name it? Probably looks like a Tim. Okay, so I'm adding in some darker areas for like silhouette purposes, and I'm not going to get too fancy on it. This is why I love black Prismacolor. This stuff just gets so dark right away. You don't have to worry about layering and layering and layering and layering of graphite. It happens immediately. And of course I am applying pressure and releasing pressure. I don't think I'm going to put color on this one. I kind of just like it the way it is. It's a lot of fun. This could be an alien being too floating around. Okay, so again, guys, check the links in the description below. I want to thank everybody for watching me doodle and you listening to me explain how to fill up a sketch page. I did all of this by not caring. I didn't care what I did, and in doing so, I had a lot of fun. It was very relaxing, and when you're drawing, it should be a relaxing thing. Okay, so check the links in the description for the Creature Design Workshop Discord and also my mentorship. And comment below. Tell me what you think. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Peace. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I'm really glad that you're here. So I've been having so much fun lately with thumbnail exploration and showing you guys what to do. I have a new technique that you can do even if you've never drawn before. Get your sketchbook, get your pencil or pen, and do this. One single line. It could be look like a hair, it could be a scribble mark, it doesn't matter, and then move on to the next one, and then move on to the next, and then move on to the next. So you're going to have one row to start. I don't want you to go any further than that just because I don't want you to be overwhelmed with trying to come up with many different ideas at once. We're just going to take this one step at a time. All right, next, I want you to go back to that original scribble mark and lightly place in some more lines that are kind of random, but it's going to be lighter than the original one. Okay, and you're going to go to this one, and you're going to scribble on some marks, and then leave it. And then you're going to go to the next one, and you're going to do the same. Now, while you're doing this, try your best not to have some kind of shape or form in your mind that you're hoping these things will turn into. That's not the exercise. The exercise is, hey, I don't feel creative, or hey, I'm in an artistic rut. How can I come up with something using my imagination and not looking at any reference whatsoever? This is how you do it. Let's go to the next row. Let's do another dark line, but this time it's more of a slope. So you're probably wondering, wait a minute, it's way different than those. Yes, it is. Okay, and make sure that each angle is different than the other one. So this one's going to be vertical, and this one is going to be horizontal. After this, I want you to quickly place in some scribble marks lightly across that straight line, and do the same for this one. Be random with it. Just make shapes sharp, bulbous, like semi-round. It doesn't matter. There you go. So now we have two rows that we can use to possibly form into something really cool. So let's see what happens. So the first row, I'm going to write down creature. Okay, and then maybe the second row we can write down creature or maybe prop. Okay, and I'll underline those. All right, I like to keep my sketchbooks nice and orderly and neat. So if you're busting out your sketchbook for the very first time and it's not so neat, maybe this method can help you break out of that. All right, so let's go to this first one. Now, I noticed this very dark line that I drew. What I want to do is I want to create an anchor point, or consider this an anchor line. What that is, it's the main line that I'm going to follow as a contour for the body of these creatures that I'm making. So this one was obviously shaped like the front end of a rhinoceros beetle, so I'm going to do that. This one, it looks more like an antenna, so I'm just going to kind of duplicate that. Maybe this is a quadruped slash moth creature, I don't know. And I'm just going to start putting in some shapes around those dark lines. Yeah, it looks like giant ears. Next up, let's go to this one. So it looks like over here to the left, it's really sharp and then it goes down. So maybe that mark right there is the front left leg, and this one's the front right one, and there's the shell, and then here's the back leg. So you can see how we're slowly but surely piecing together these really neat creature shapes. Or I want you to look down at your work right now and be proud of yourself of the fact that you just scribbled some shapes on without even thinking. And you're not stressed out. Well, hopefully you're not stressed out following me on this. Now we're going to go to this last one. Okay, and I noticed that the dark line on this one is kind of a zigzag. So maybe that's the leg. This looks like a big head crest. So I don't know, maybe that could be a rock creature, some kind of plant. Speaking of plants, plants are really good for reference for creature design. All right, let's go to the props. All right, so here I am looking at these props, and immediately I'm thinking that could be the wing. That could be, I don't know, like a secondary wing up here, and then this is the body. And it looks like a little spaceship going upwards. This one, I'm just going to put a triangle here because that's the original shape that I saw, and then these two little weird legs. It kind of looks like a little satellite, maybe a beacon. I don't know. But that's what's cool. That's the whole point of doing props. You don't really know what the machinery is. It's just, it could be electronic, it could be semi-alien, it doesn't really matter. And then we'll go to this one. This one still kind of does look like a creature, I'm not going to lie, but it's straight up and down, so why don't we have this creature hold like a little staff, it's a walking staff, and then two legs coming off to the side, and then a big eyeball. Because I saw that marking right there, so there's like a big eye, and then there's the secondary arm. So it's like a big walking eyeball. Kind of gross, actually. Almost like the eye is coming out of a shell. Yeah, that one might be the gnarliest one I've drawn. And that was totally at random, too. Okay, so a lot of worries that I get from beginner students is, hey, I don't have imagination. How am I going to come up with this stuff? And really, you just have to eliminate the fear of failing and eliminate the fear of not being able to come up with ideas and worrying about what other people are doing, and just worry about putting lines down first. It's going to sound really cheesy to say, but you got to start somewhere. Like, we've all had that said to us at some point. You know, like, oh my gosh, this next task that I'm doing is so daunting. Well, you got to start somewhere. Okay, the next bit, let's go back up here to these little critters. And I'm going to lightly place in some shadows under that darkened line. And I'm starting to see the silhouette emerge. And these little details that I'm putting in now are just helping define that shape. And also, I don't really know where the legs are going to go per se, but let's just see what happens when I just allow the pen to travel alongside. Okay, so that first little hair mark that I made to start this off has turned into what looks like a crab. I'm just going to brush a little bit of a contact shadow on the ground. Well, I'm sorry, cast shadow, really. And then I'm going to move on to this moth. Well, moth-like creature, I guess. So these legs look like they're bending out in front, which is kind of crazy. There we go. It's almost human-like. So these front limbs are there to show us, like, hey, this is the front. I'm going to put this little head right here in the front too. And then let's add some feathers on these wings. So we have some diverse sketches going on here, and really this isn't for any specific project. This is for you guys to just enjoy just for the process of sketching. I've been getting a lot of comments lately, and this is really warming my heart when I read this stuff. You know, people that are taking their sketchbooks out for the very first time in years. I mean, we're talking 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and they've lost that passion. So if you're listening right now and you feel like you've lost that passion of drawing and you want to get it back because you loved doing it so much at one point, there's nothing holding you back from just going to go get a sketchbook. So a technique that I like doing whenever I'm working in pen is that if I find an area underneath one of the shapes that I'm drawing and I know that there's going to be a shadow under there, I'll apply a little bit heavier of texture, or pressure I should say, so that it gives the illusion that there is shadow underneath. And that helps me know, like, hey, this is going to be the bottom or this is going to be the top. And it really does work. All right, so over here with the prop that I drew, it looks like another spaceship and the wing is really long. It almost looks alien. Looks very alien actually. So maybe I can add some straight edge in there mixed with some organics, and we'll see what happens. But you can see how I'm very lightly applying some pen strokes across there, and it's actually filling in an area as if I'm shading with a pencil. You really can achieve some neat shading techniques, be it hatching, cross hatching, or just straight up shading like a pencil with a pen. Because the ink, even though each stroke next to each other doesn't spread like graphite, you can still keep the pencil or the pen strokes close together, and it has a really nice blue effect, especially if you're drawing with black. Sometimes it tends to look blue when it reflects the light around your room. It's pretty neat. I'm just going to go back now and I'm going to start playing with some of these silhouettes because I think they look really cool. And I'm going to add in, some more details, of course. For example, if I see some little area like, okay, there's a little shadow that needs to be under there, I'll jump to that, and then while my eye travels across the sketch page, I'll notice another area that needs some attention, like, oh, down here with this little fighter jet, whatever you want to call it, I'll put that in there. Maybe the cockpit is right here. One thing, I'm a traditionalist at art. I've been using pencil all my life. One thing that a pencil cannot do, that a pen can, is offer you permanently nice looking lines no matter the direction that you draw. You just have to hope that your pen doesn't bleed. Now, I want to tell you guys something, for those of you that are experienced artists but you avoid pens because they bleed on you. You're just using a crappy pen, or it's so old that a lot of the ink has just collected at the tip and it has slowly been seeping into the brass section, and then all of a sudden when you apply that pressure to get it loosened up, the liquid mixed with the dry portion of it all comes out at once and it doesn't know what to do. I'm going to personify the pen. It like all that pressure is so much that it just has to come out somewhere. So I would go on a separate page and just test the pen and just make sure that your lines look good before you start drawing, and it'll never bleed on you again. If it does bleed on you after you do that, then it's a really crappy pen, and stop using those. I'm not calling out any brands. I'm just saying if the pen isn't working for you, there's no point in drawing with something that's not working. All right, so now I'm just kind of going around my thumbnails and I'm just adding in cool little bits and pieces that I see could be needed. Like this little warrior right here actually turned out to be pretty cool, and I didn't know what it was at first. I totally expected this row to be nothing but props. It looks like we have a little weird reconnaissance probe looking thing or some kind of intergalactic kiosk, and it's just kind of sitting there. Maybe we'll put some rocks right here. Maybe a warrior walked down a post-apocalyptic street or is on another planet and sees this at an outpost. Like maybe there's a little sign right here. Let's put a little sign. Okay, it says keep out. I can't see that really because that's a little too small. But we'll put that in there. It'll be like a little scene. Maybe they're together. There you go. Totally unplanned scenic adventure right there. Okay, why not? Let's just put a little scene here with some bubble rocks. And I'm just applying light strokes and medium ones. There we go. Okay. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's lesson. It's a continuation of your thumbnail practice. Now, this right here does multiple things. One, it relieves anxiety, art anxiety. It can relieve artist block. It can help you reignite your passion for drawing once again. You know, everybody has that burning passion for art. If you've done it before and you really enjoyed it, you just, you know, did other things and fell into other things in life, which is totally cool. You explore, you know, you get a family, your passions are kind of set aside. Don't let it wane again. Okay, you want to keep it this time. All right, so I'm not going to number them this time. But there you have it, guys. So comment below, let me know what you're working on and if this method is working. If you want to see more of my thumbnail process like this, I'll do 100 more videos in a row of nothing but this stuff. Like if you really want to do it. You know what we need right here? My trusty orange. I can't go wrong with this. Probably turned out to be one of my favorite markers. Let's see what happens. You know what? Something tells me that that little conch shell warrior needs to be like a green. So let's make it a green, huh? Let's put a darker green in there. I don't know if this is going to work. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. Okay, that one's green, and maybe the eyeball is dark green. There you go. I think this one needs to be orange too. Yeah, a lot of fun. Okay. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I really love you guys, and I love your comments, and you know, just telling me what you're going through artistically, and that this stuff is actually bringing you joy. Check the links in the description below for our Creature Design Workshop Discord. I'm also accepting very early signups for my Creature Design for Film and Games class at CGMA, and that starts in April. So if you want to sign up now, spots are limited to 20. And then, last but not least, I do run a private mentorship. I'm helping everybody draw foundations, cubes, cones, cylinders, and spheres. So if you feel like an artist that has completely lost his or her way in drawing because years ago you skipped the fundamentals and you learned bad habits and now you're stubborn and you don't want to learn new ways, I'm going to help you with that. Okay, I would like to help you with that. So let me know, comment below mentioning the word mentorship, or email me at bobbyrebholz.com or bobbyrebholz@gmail.com, and I'd be glad to help. All right, until next time, everybody. Peace. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. So I'm just asking you all to come along with me on this journey. If you got a sketchbook and you got blank pages staring right back at you, you're probably wondering, what can you do to actually fill those pages up? You know, we all probably have those sketchbooks that have been dying to have you fill them up with doodles and sketches and colors and all of your craziest creations, but you just can't seem to do it. You know, I've talked about this before on my channel, and I'm going to keep talking about this because it's almost like an art epidemic. You know, we buy these fancy sketchbooks, and not all of them are fancy, but we don't really know what to do with them. We kind of just have an art block, and they're just sitting there staring right back at us, and we feel guilty. We know we should put something in the sketchbook, but we just don't know what to do. You can see me right now just doodling. That's what I love doing. You know, my specialty is creature design, of course, but it's the method in which I do it that can bleed into all other aspects of art, not just creatures. You know, for example, if you're into drawing really cute puppies, or if you're into drawing portraits, landscapes, doesn't matter. It all starts with that first line. that first line that you put down on the paper, and you don't know what that line's going to be like. And I think that's the fear that everyone has. It's a fear that, hey, I'm going to mess up. I don't really know what to put down, so I'm just going to leave my page blank and hope for the best. Maybe I'll get around to it at some point. And I just want you guys to take your sketchbooks and just erase that fear. Easier said than done, of course. But if you do this method, where you scribble on some shapes and you start to see where intersections occur, then not only are you going to fill up a sketchbook and hopefully be proud of it, you're going to carry on that skill set to any of the other sketchbooks and projects that you could take on at a later time. You know, like for me, whenever I would do creature design, it was always, okay, how can I make this thing as otherworldly as possible? And that's what I go for. And I try to think about all the movies that have influenced me over the years and all of the games that I've played, and I can name so many right off the bat, like Evolve, all the Dooms, all the Gears of War, Halo, like Half-Life, like all of those, Silent Hill even though that's more demonic and possessed, but who cares? Who's judging, right? I try to look at all of those and see if I can pull off any influence. All right, so think about what you're drawing right now and ask yourself, could I do this a couple more times but give myself some new ideas? You know, I'm sitting here drawing this grotesque worm. It's not really an insect. I don't know what this is. Maybe somebody was opening a gate to another dimension that they should not have been messing with. Let's just say that. You know, but you can see that my lines are free-flowing. I'm keeping the grip on my pencil really, really loose. If you have a heavy hand, instead of jumping into the H pencils, you know, like 2H, 3H, the really, really hard graphite, just work on not gripping your pencil hard enough and using your pinky to guide your palm across the page. So when you have a pencil and you're pulling closer towards you, the tip of it, that means I want to put in details. So you want to loosen that up and push the pencil a minimum of halfway. You know, sometimes I'll draw and I'll have it like almost 3/4 of the way back to the butt of the pencil. You know, it's a good method to try. I think I'm going to use some shading sparingly, just because I might want to add some color in there. I don't know. But I think what I'll do is I'll draw some circles and then put really harsh black treatment around it to show a speck highlight on the eyeballs. That is terrifying. Yeah. You know, this reminds me of, and I don't know if you guys have seen the movie, but The Mist. I've talked about this in other videos too. So maybe I'm subconsciously pulling from that. Okay, let's see what else we can do. Let's go on. Actually, no. Let's color that. I'm going to color it. I'm going to put some orange in there, just for fun. Let's see what we can do. So I'm drawing on moleskin paper, and fair warning, moleskin paper isn't the best for markers, but if you use it sparingly, it can offer some really cool colors, and you know, the finish is okay. All right, let's see if we can put some of that in there. Looks like a crying spider thing, right? We have to have some of the colors down here on the hands. Or do we have to? I don't know. But I don't want to go too far there. I think what I'll do is take this across. There we go. Okay, so we're going to do something even faster now. So if you want to fill a sketchbook, try this out. Sharpen your pencil, and then put a bunch of shapes down. Just scribble. Lightly. Do that for about 10-15 seconds and stop. Okay, now look at your scribble. This looks like the mushroom cloud of an explosion. It looks like a tree. It kind of looks like a rounded sailboat. I don't know how I'm going to turn this into anything, but let's see if we can do this. Okay, so let's first look at the lines that are the most prominent. I see some dark ones crisscrossing here, and obviously the mushroom type or the tree shape, it's not going any farther than that, so I didn't really draw anything past it except for a couple humps here and there. So let's see what happens if I follow that in that little shape. Okay, and then maybe I can follow this roundness right here. Oh man, I don't know what this is. What if this is a crazy helmet? And then this is the creature's face. There it is. There it is. Okay, little mouth like that. This is probably going to be one of the creepiest pages I've ever drawn. And then I'm just going to put some light shading in here, keeping the strokes close together. Do you see how I'm not getting annoyed? I'm not getting angry. I didn't have a set thing that I was going to draw. Okay, instead, it looks like this little, I don't know, extraterrestrial is trying to wear a helmet. An army helmet? I don't know, but that's not even what the army helmets look like. Maybe we can put in some core shadow on the side of the helmet. There we go, kind of bring it around. And then I kind of like that eye, but the thing is, the brim of the hat is going to be casting a shadow on the face. So I'm just going to take my pencil and just shade that down. But I'll keep the lightness of the paper. So you can see all of these really loose gestural lines actually helped me figure some stuff out. It helped me figure out the roundness of that shape right in there. And then of course putting the core shadow in and having the silhouette down definitely helped me too. Okay, so we have our little gray alien at attention. And I'm just going to fade some shading off right there. I don't want to color that, so let's just move on. Okay, exercise number 2. We're going to put some shapes down, but this is going to be a little different. I'm going to spread these out. Try this exercise out. Those of you that are watching me right now, try this out. You see how I'm just kind of lifting my pencil, putting it down, lifting it, putting it down. I have no intention of this forming anything. Okay, now I'm going to stop. Let's see what happens. So it looks like the top of this could be a crest. And then this might be the body in here. And then this is very interesting because I could turn this into a leg. Maybe this creature's walking. Okay, so maybe we can do that. Okay, and then this is the other leg. So you can kind of see that even though those markings were not really defining anything, this could be the front end of a portrait or some kind of front shape for a creature. Okay, so I think I know what's happening now. This is a very round creature. I don't know. There's no legs over here. But there's definitely arms in the front, so let's do that. Okay, so we can curl some fingers up, kind of like how a gorilla walks. And then we'll spread some fingers out on its left hand, because maybe it's lifting its left arm to walk. This is the shoulder. This is a very flat head. So maybe the eyes are kind of hidden underneath that crest for the head. Okay, and then there's the face. It almost looks like a little ghost or something kind of cool. Let's go with that. And then maybe the creature has some dreadlocks. I don't know. Anything goes on this. And the other thing is, if you're filling up your sketchbook right now and you're looking at your page and going, I can't turn these into anything. I feel like they're failing. They are not failing. Just remember that your sketchbook is your diary. And I have said this so many times throughout my videos and throughout my channel. We're drawing this just to have fun. Let's see what kind of shapes that we can make. Okay, the next exercise that I want you guys to do is going to be a little different than the norm, but we're going to make tiny small doodles, just little ones. And we're going to go, it's almost going to look like some alien language. And we're just going to keep doing this. We're going to put them back to back to back. And the technique that I'm using is scribbling. There's nothing fancy about this, but we're going to go back to see if we can start pulling out shapes. Now these may be a little darker than what I would like to have done, but again, this is an experimentation. So I have to throw that notion out that I have to go erase something, and I don't want to do that. So I'm not taking up too much space. And I'm trying to look at the other shapes and go, what can I add here that I have not done before? All right, so I'm starting to see things that are coming out that I did not before. Okay, this is so much fun too, because what you can do is you can fill a sketchbook really fast with these little exercises like this. Okay. Now I'm pushing harder in some areas and releasing pressure in some areas. There we go. Look at this. We did what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 doodles very quickly. So the next thing that I want you to do is I want you to take your pencil and I want you to go in and lightly shade only in certain parts. And then stop. Maybe start at the bottom and release the pressure. Start on the far left and move the value over to the right, and then maybe do some small little areas here and there. And if you're trying to shade in between some of these lines to show shadow, there's no real shadow to show yet. None of the faces, none of the shapes have been determined yet, so you don't have to worry about that. So just pick a little crevice, and you can go in between one, maybe on the underbelly of a sketch, like this. Okay, and then move on to the next one. This is pretty vague, so maybe I'll fill this one in, and then this one up top. Okay, notice how I'm holding my pencil. I'm leaving half of it alone, so I'm not going to grab it all the way to the tip. Okay, so let's keep going. It's pretty rounded shape, not thinking too hard about this. So I'm just going to take some areas and put in some value, maybe darken some up. Okay, and then I'm going to stop. So let's move on to the next one. All right, same method as before. There we go, like this. I'm not even putting in dark lines to show the underbelly because I don't know what it is yet. There we go. Whenever you do this exercise, consider this just like preliminary. I had to get these monsters out, but as I moved down, you could have started this entire exercise with this. As a matter of fact, after you're done watching this video, you should do that. You should go to a clean page and just fill the entire page with these little doodles. The next thing that I want you to do is we're going to play up line weight. Okay, so your ability to add pressure, release pressure, your ability to go from dark to light. So some of these, I'm going to go darker and then release pressure. Darker under here. And then there are some small crevices inside here that I could go darker. So what this is that it's a very crude way to show the least amount of light touching specific areas, like underbellies or if light's coming down. Okay, right away, hopefully you can see this technique making it look like there's a harsh contrast of light and then shadow underneath. It's going to make these things pop really quickly. Fading some pressure off right in here. There we go. Okay, and then we got this one. This little guy down here kind of looks like a little fly. Notice how I'm not spending a lot of time on these. There's no need. There's no need to spend a lot of time. What you guys should be doing is just experimenting, breathing softly, sitting up straight, listening to some good music, maybe drinking some caffeine. If you're doodling this in the morning, great. You can number these. I mean, me with my obsessive brain, of course I'm going to number each one. It's just a good peace of mind. It's a good habit to get into. Just number all your sketches. Those of you that don't know me, I'm coming from a concept art background, so we have to display these things for clients all the time, and they have to be numbered so they can pinpoint them. Okay, and then last but not least, let's splash some colors on these little things. Okay, so I'll take a blue here. Maybe we can find a blue, kind of whip it across this one. Not really sure how well that's going to show up for you guys, because I'm not taking over a lot of areas here. Got to have the harsh orange in. Hopefully that doesn't bleed. There we go. And then maybe some orange down here. Okay, let's see what else we can do. Oh look, pink. Haven't done pink in a while. There we go. Now, I'm staying away from the pencil. Okay, ballpoint pen and marker, they go together differently than graphite and marker. So you want to be careful of that. Put some green across there. The green looks really good. See if we can mix it in with the... Ooh, that actually looks pretty neat. Mix it in with the orange and the blue. Have the green whip across here on that one. Put some up here. I'm trying to counteract these, or counter these with like warms and cools. Got that little earth tone in there. Kind of looks like burnt sienna almost. So maybe the orange will look good right next to it. Yes, it does. That looks good. Okay, I think all of them got some love except for two. So some of these are a little too harsh. I don't know if I'm going to be able to use some of those colors. Maybe some orange down in here, and then I'll do an orange there. That's fine. Okay, so look at your sketchbooks today. Look what you just did with me. If you found this helpful, comment below. Let me know what you're working on. Check the links in the description. Check the pinned comment. Join our Discord and show off your work. Ask for feedback. It's a bustling community, so we'd be happy to have you. Okay. But that's what you guys can achieve in a short amount of time. As a matter of fact, the first thing that you guys saw me draw, I wouldn't do that for this lesson. I would just stick to this one. Okay, you have these really strange little critters, and what these can do is they can give you ideas about weapons, creatures, spaceships, and props, and among other things. Maybe there's other things that I'm not even thinking of right now. But if you number them and you keep track of them, they can give you some really, really cool ideas. So there it is, folks. Hopefully you liked today's lesson. Let me know how it turned out for you. If you absolutely hate your sketch page or you love it, great. If you're doodling on a bus, if you're, I've been getting messages where people they're traveling and they're just doodling while watching my videos. Man, it just warms the heart, because it's like, that's all I want. I just want you guys to have breakthroughs in your artwork, and especially those of you right now listening that have a sketchbook in your closet and it's been collecting dust for 4 months, 6 months, a year. Okay, bust it out. Start drawing. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. You do have time. All right. Peace. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So, if you're familiar with the videos that I have been posting lately, I posted one recently about how to overcome anxiety for your sketchbook, especially those of you that have a sketchbook collecting dust and it's just sitting on your desk or in your closet. So this particular method is something that I want you to do over the next 30 days. I want you to throw out any notion that you have that you're a bad artist, that you're worried about what friends or family may think, and that you have to show your sketches to somebody, which you don't. This is your personal journey. This is your exercise. So you can see here that the only tool I have to draw with is my trusty 4B pencil. I suggest 4B because it allows you to go light, medium, and dark with just one pencil. Look at the shapes that I'm just spewing out right now. You'll see here that I did 2 rows of warm-ups before I started filming, just so I can get the blood flowing. These don't take a long time. Now what I'm doing is I'm applying loose strokes as well as heavier strokes. And they're all coupled together in these really odd and almost abstract shapes. One of the most fun things that we can do with a sketchbook is actually fill the thing up. And that in itself is a challenge. because we're always trying to perfect what we draw. And when we try to perfect what we draw and it doesn't end up what we think it should, because we see it in our head differently, what do? We cross these out and then we turn the page. That's a failure. I have failed. I'm sure a lot of you have failed. Maybe you're failing right now with your approach to art. And I just want you to know that it's mainly because you're thinking way too hard about perfecting everything that's down. Some of the best artists in the world simply draw because they just love to draw. And they're not worried about what comes out. Look how fast that I'm throwing these lines down. Just try it. Just try this. It looks like my hand is spasming, but the only control that I have of this is just keeping it within a confined area, and then I'll stop. So when you're looking at these, there is already, what, 1, 2, 3, almost 4 rows of sketches. It's so much fun. And you could do a bunch of different shapes too. Like for example, I have these scribbles up here in the first 4 rows. So when I move down, I will do maybe small dots coupled with some vertical lines and maybe some horizontal ones going back and forth. I don't know what that is. It kind of looks like a log with mushrooms growing off the side. It looks like some kind of otherworldly jellyfish. I don't know. That's the fun part. Let's move on. How long did that take? What, 10 seconds? I know all of you can do this too. So this is what I want you guys to do for the next 30 days. Every single day when you wake up, doodle. Don't worry about what it is. If you dreamt of something really neat and you want to doodle it down, even better. There we go. Okay, now we're going to scribble something super fast, and I don't know what's going to happen. And I know you guys can do this too. Just try this right now. Just scribble it. We're going to come back to each and every one of these, and I want to show you a really neat method to adding some shading or value and adding a little bit of color too. I got this idea for the lesson right now because of that previous video I did, just helping people release anxiety in their drawing, helping people release their sketchbook anxiety. It seemed to resonate with a lot of people to the point where I just felt compelled to keep going with this method. This is so much fun. I love doing this kind of stuff. Real short little sketches. Now notice how I'm pressing harder in some areas and I'm releasing pressure in other areas. That's what I want you to do. And then here's the very end of the page down here. Kind of looks like a spaceship, kind of looks like a sailboat, I don't know. Okay, let's move up. Look at that. I just filled that page up and I didn't put too much time and energy into each doodle. This is the power of scribbling. All right, now I get some criticism because I've been told that I jump into, my illustrations and too much advanced artistic techniques. And I'm here to say that it all starts with this though. So I'm going to try to jump into some more beginner-friendly exercises. Maybe some of you out there want to draw, but you just don't know how to pick it up yet. So what I'm doing now, I'm going back over each individual sketch. I'm holding the pencil halfway, and I'm also lightly holding it. Look at my fingertips. I'm not gripping it. The harder you grip your pencil, the more it compels you to do details. So you want to stay away from doing that. So what I'm doing is I'm going underneath the sketch. Underneath as in light source is coming down from above. So I'm just going to put in a little bit of shadow. And I'm picking tiny little areas here and there that may be outlined by some scribbles. And I'm just going to put in some cast shadows. What this does is it adds just enough value across these little doodles to where maybe some shapes will come through. And I think this is the most fun part of the thumbnail process, is seeing shapes emerge from the doodles. And you're going to see a really neat trick here coming up, so just make sure you keep watching this. And those of you that just happen to stumble upon my channel because the YouTube algorithm thinks that you want to watch me, I want to welcome you. Maybe you have some Post-its or some envelopes or paper laying around that you could just doodle. And you can do this with a pen too. You don't need to do it with just a pencil. I just realized that there's like a little, what is that, a little fly? I don't know. But anyway, I'm just going to continue to add some value. Very lightly pressing on the page here. And still staying within the lines of some of these shapes, because some of these shapes are pretty neat. Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, down here it's a little spiky. Just wait till we add color and you're going to see a really neat effect. Okay, this shape is pretty neat because there's a lot going on. It looks like some kind of flying beast. But what I'm doing is I'm going thick to thin, so I'm definitely applying some gradients here, and I'm just going to keep going. I see some faces emerging from this too. Hopefully you guys are seeing the same thing in yours. Maybe you're seeing some little animals. Maybe you're seeing some faces, some creatures, or foliage, some guns, props, whatever. This is when your imagination can truly just, evolve. Okay, before I get too far into this, I want to show you a little trick. There are areas on each individual doodle where I want you to press a little harder. Just little areas. And I want you to release that pressure. What this is a cast shadow for some of the parts that look like they're 3D, that are coming out at us, and they're closer towards us than the other areas of the shape. These shapes are totally random. I don't know what they are. They could be spaceships, they could be little flying insects, but these little cast shadows really add some depth. The depth that we're adding for these little doodles doesn't have to be super detailed. You don't have to worry about atmospheric perspective or anything fancy. It's just to show a 3D effect on parts that may be coming out at us. There we go. We're getting there too. Comment below and let me know if this method is helping you. I really love talking about thumbnail sketching because I think that this is almost a lost art. It's kind of sad because thumbnails can give you a wide range of neat ideas, and I feel people ignore this because the idea that's in their head, they feel they have to settle on that one. I just want to tell you that you do not have to settle on any one idea. The next part of this challenge, once you have shading on all the doodles and you have some nice dark marks on the ones that you want. So once you have some dark shading and some nice values on some of these areas, see if you can shape these into something. So I'm looking around here and I'm thinking, you know what? That one could probably be a helmet. So maybe I can just add some edges there. Maybe that face is inside there, something I didn't plan. Maybe there are some horns on the side of that. Like, I have no idea, but it's so much fun doing something like this. So go around, look at your sketches right now, everybody do it, and ask yourself, can this be my pet? Can this be a creature? Can it be a weapon of some sort from some sci-fi world? Who knows? The next thing I want you to do is I want you to add some color. So I have gone over this method before, but I'm going to do it again because it's so much fun. And I'm just going to add little snippets of color here. So we can do like a whole row of orange. I'm telling you, this sketchbook challenge is really going to open up your creativity and hopefully show you that you don't have to be perfect with your sketchbook. Instead, you just have to explore in your sketchbook. Don't ever worry about making things perfect because it doesn't really help your cause. All right, let's get another color. How about some blue? I don't really use blue that much, especially this one. It doesn't really show up well. It's showing up kind of decent on there, but I think the blue is so dark, maybe some of these underbellies to these creatures it'll probably look the best. And I think I'm going to couple it with some green. Let's do that. So let's take some green. I'm going to take probably a lighter one. I don't know what it is, but I think this green just looks really good on moleskin. There we go. I'll put that green there. Put it next to some of that blue. And I think we're good. And maybe I'll put some green on down these sketches. Very little. Because I don't want to mix too much of the marker in. This is Copic marker, by the way. I don't want to mix Copic in with any of the pencil. Well, any markers for that matter. All right, so let's go back in here and see if we can, add in some really dark single lines. Like this, it adds a really neat effect to kind of solidify the sketch. So you don't have to add a lot, just enough to convey a solid shape. Some of these are pretty organic. Some of these are almost mechanical. This is the beauty of a sketch page like this. So those of you that are struggling to fill your sketchbook, or you just want something fun to do as a challenge for the next 30 days, fill a sketchbook page. Now the size of this is smaller. This is not 8.5 by 11. I believe this is 5 by 8 moleskin. Maybe it's a little off on each one. I think it's like 5.3 by 8. I don't know. When you do this, get into the habit of numbering them. You can number them all. Okay, so once they're all numbered, just for your own peace of mind, I like to number my sketches just because it helps me keep track. Maybe on day number 2, there's 26 sketches here. Maybe on day number 2, I start at 27 and I just keep going until I fill it up. So if this helps, comment below. Let me know what you're going through art-wise. And I encourage everybody to try this method out for the next month. And it doesn't have to be just because of this video and you're watching it. Just challenge yourself regardless, and you will see a difference in a month. All right. Remember, you're sketching for yourself and nobody else. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. I had a lot of fun doing this, and I hope you create something awesome. Peace. Hey everyone, welcome back. So let's say you have bought a sketchbook for the very first time and you don't know what to put in it. You have a faint idea, but you're kind of scared to put the lines down. Well, if you've seen my previous videos where I scribble a lot and I emphasize the importance of thumbnailing, we're going to do that again, but those of you that are brand new to drawing, you can actually watch my thought process unfold, as I'm recording this. Now, there's many themes that I cover. For example, creatures, concept art for games, concept art for film, and just flat out drawing for fun. Now, even if you're not an artist or you are a seasoned artist, you should be drawing for fun anyway. But the point of drawing a sketchbook is to not only get better at art, but enjoy what you've actually put down on paper. So I want you, if you're brand new to it, to just start throwing lines down without caring too much about what's going to happen with each individual line. It doesn't really matter your skill level at all. Now, your line work itself might not look very good. Okay, you see images of other artists and their shading is beautiful, or their line weight and line quality are top-notch. Hey, that's okay. Just don't dwell too long on comparing yourself to those artists. If you compare yourself too much, what's going to happen is you'll fall into the trap of just doing work that they do, okay, instead of creating your own voice, your own unique voice, which actually, is finding your own style. I did a whole video on finding your own art style, and I think it would be important if you're a new artist to check that video out. And the thing about finding a style and about doing a sketchbook for the very first time is that if you just let the shapes fall where they may, it's usually much easier and developing something that you actually are going to fall in love with later. So let's face it, like what we draw isn't always going to be pretty. Let's just say it. All right, it doesn't matter how many years you've been drawing. There's some stuff that I've done even over the past month, and I'm going, nope, I don't want to look at that again. Now, do I consider them a failure? No, not at all. They're probably going to be sketches that I come back to at a later time that I can finesse and turn into something cool. Like this right here, it's a bubbly shape. It kind of looked like a robotic turtle almost, a little alien. I'll darken these eyeballs up so you can see them. Now let's give it a little beak. Now I'm coming at this from the angle of a creature designer, of course, because that's my trade, that's what I do. But let's say those of you have bought a sketchbook for the very first time and you don't know what to put in it because you don't know what you're going to be good at. You don't know what you want to study. You don't even know how to start. I suggest starting with cubes, cones, cylinders, and spheres because that's the foundational side of drawing. But let's just say you want to doodle one day, and that's typically the most fun you're going to have sketching anyway. It's just doodling. Just take your pencil, take your pen, and loosen your grip up. I'm not grabbing this very hard. I'm just grabbing it towards the very end of it. By the way, on a side note, this is a Bic stick. That's all it is, a round stick. Okay, ballpoint. I typically draw with the Bic Ultra Round Stick Grip, which is a little bit softer on the side. But for the most part, Bic makes amazing pens. And you should definitely purchase some. They're pretty cheap. All right, I'm having a lot of fun with this little guy. So comment below if you're drawing for the very first time or if the YouTube algorithm brought you to my channel and you have no idea how the heck you ended up here. If that's the case, I want to officially welcome you, and maybe, hey, you could draw for the very first time too. I like to teach people that feel like they're never going to be good. They're never going to. If you're one of those folks, please do yourself a favor and scrap that mindset. Start anew. Buy that sketchbook. It doesn't have to be fancy. I'm sketching on moleskin, which is a little pricier. That's just my personal preference. You can sketch on a napkin. You can sketch on the back of cardboard. Like it doesn't matter. The point is getting used to the actual physical act of drawing. And once you start doing that, once you start building up the mental toughness of doing it, maybe every day, maybe every other day, hopefully you're going to start to see some progress to the point where you're going to want to do it more and more and more. Now, we all have lives too. So let's say you just happen to go to Walgreens or CVS or your art store and you'd be like, you know what? I bought my first sketchbook. I don't know where to start, so I'm just going to have it sit in my room for 4 months, and I'm not going to touch it. But every time I go into my room, I'm going to look over there and go, you know what? I should draw. That's when you know you should start. Okay, I'm just having a lot of fun here. Just doodling away. I kind of broke my own rule here. Anytime that I put a shadow in, especially with pen, and the hatch marks are going in a certain direction, if I lift up my pen and put shadow anywhere else on the body or the subject matter, it should go the same direction, and I totally did not do that. So let's see if I can get rid of it or help it out. I mean, it's good enough. It's not hurting anything. I'm seeing a lot of potential with these shapes. It's very mechanical. So I think I'm going to need to put a better overall stance on this critter. It does look rather mechanical, but there's still some organic liveliness about this whole thing. That whenever let me rephrase that. When I was first starting out in concept art, I wanted to do everything. I wanted to do machines because my background is industrial design for schooling, characters obviously, but also weapons, props, environments, which I was absolutely awful at. That's the thing, people don't know that they're bad at something, and when people tell them that they're bad at something, our stubbornness overtakes us and go, no, I'm not that bad at it. Nobody's teaching me correctly. And in some cases that actually is true. But I'm going to dedicate a whole video probably in the near future where I just talk about our education system and how a lot of art schools are failing their students. But that's besides the point. Hey, if you're an art student and you feel like your school's failing you, comment below. Tell me why. Tell me why. Maybe I can help you out. Those of you that know me, I draw a lot with my pencil. Whenever I do pen, there's just this really nice feeling I get where I know I can remain simple. And I put in some shading, which is one directional hatching. So one directional is just the shading at an angle, and then cross hatching you've probably heard before, where you cross hatch and it makes it look like a fence, or the fence texture. I've spent a lot of time on that. Let's move over. And while I move over, why don't we put a little fella right there, just like a simple little person with a little sword, standing there going, hey, what's up? You know, that's the scale of a little dude about to fight the big boss. So we got to add in some ground here. We're gonna make a little scene. Make a little scene with me. A happy little scene. Okay, there's the ground. Maybe put some small pebbles. Okay, if you know, the whole point of this video is to draw in a sketchbook for the very first time and what to do. So we start doodling some critters and characters. Oh, that's the other thing. This is what I've noticed, and this is what I've noticed for mentoring people and teaching them for over a decade. If they come to me wanting to become a better artist, there are plenty of subject matters to want to get better at. Vehicles, props, weapons, creatures, characters, environments, armor, everything. And it's always like, I just want to draw a really cool creature. It's always a creature. It warms my heart. There's just this freedom that we get from drawing monsters. I don't know what it is. We just like the monsters, don't we? Comment below if you agree with me. You're always drawing monsters, but let's say weapons are your favorite things to draw. But whenever you're practicing, it's always monsters. Crazy. Okay, well, let's go on here to sketch number 2. So if you've been watching me so far for the past 10 minutes draw this little critter, and you haven't drawn anything yet, take your pen, take your pencil. And what I want you to do is I want you to lightly put some random lines into your paper or onto your paper and stop. Now, you're not going to be able to see them very well, and there's a reason for that. It's because we're going to build up the layers on those so that you can learn how to build the sketch up from scratch so that the details can come later instead of jumping into details right away. All right, now, the shapes that you draw most likely will be out of your comfort zone. Okay, we don't want to do something that is within your comfort zone because you're going to fall into bad habits again. Now, one thing that I'm noticing when I'm doing this is this shape that I'm doing is very almost floral. It looks like a hot air balloon, but a hot air balloon with legs, and it looks like a plant, and it looks like a jellyfish, all rolled into one. So now what I'm doing is I'm lightly pressing across the shape to see what lines are intersecting and if there's any interest coming out of this. Okay, now once I do that, I naturally push harder with my pen in certain parts. It just happens naturally as you're drawing because you're adjusting the width of the sketch itself and you're gripping your pen or your pencil differently depending on how far you have to stretch your hand out. Once you do this, I don't want you to lift your hand. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Don't lift your hand, leave it on the paper. And once you do this, start to scribble lines back and forth. And then stop and check it out. Now, if there are places within the drawing that lines are overlapping and it's getting darker than the other spots, see if there's a shape that can emerge from those darker lines. I kind of already see one. So right here, you might be able to see this. This looks like the underbelly of something. So that's going to be the underbelly of the creature. Over here, it almost looks like a very, very big leg, kind of like a chicken wing almost. Okay, I'm going to keep that shape and I'm just going to outline it to where it looks like a thigh, and then it looks like it's touching ground somewhere over there. So I'm just going to darken up the place where it's touching. This is very bulbous, so I think I drew the other half of the leg over here, but the shape is different. Okay, so it looks like I'm going to have to fatten up the back of this leg. There we go. Okay. You see how I played off that shape? All right, those of you that can see it, I'm just going to darken it a little bit. It kind of looks like those seeds that fall from trees, the helicopter seeds. Those of you that live in the United States and other parts of the world, you know exactly what I'm talking about, those seeds that fall out of the tree and they look like helicopters. I love watching those fall. Okay, so now we got a shape that kind of looks like an onion. That's exactly what this is. Okay, so at the bottom of this, we'll put some tentacles out. See how light everything is? There's no detail whatsoever. It's just a bunch of intersecting lines. However, those of you that know my method of doing thumbnails, when you see a bunch of overlapping shapes, time and time again, and they keep overlapping and overlapping and overlapping, not only does that form a cool looking texture, you're going to start to see shapes emerge in there that could be anatomy. And I saw one in this leg right here. It was very cool. It's almost biomechanoid. So I think I'm just going to use that to my advantage. Okay, so since this big leg is closest to us, I'm going to outline the bottom of it just slightly darker than any other part. Why outline the bottom of it a little darker? Well, it's because it symbolizes where the shadow is going to be without me having to shade in the shadow. That's why I do it. Now this leg doesn't look very balanced, so I think I'm going to spread out an extra appendage. And here's where it gets gnarly, so I can get pretty organic. I've already established the shape of that, so it's pretty cool. We still need to figure out what to do for the front here, and I think I have an answer. I'm going to put a bunch of crazy sharp teeth poking out, and then one for the bottom, and it's like a giant walking mouth. Let's do that. I always thought it would be cool if plants just evolved to the point where they're attached inside the ground due to roots, and then they form into monsters and they grow from that as they come out. That'd be kind of cool. Okay, so this is an okay design, but I'm not disappointed. I'm nothing. It's just it came out like this, the shapes that happened. So I'm going to see if I can repeat some of these shapes throughout the rest of the body. See if I can get some neat proportions. There we go. I think that looks better now that I kind of brought those weird termite mound shapes out here to the front. Now, since I'm bringing them out to the front, what do I have to do? I'm going to bring a little bit more attention to the ones that are closest to us, because not only are they closest to us, you're going to see more details on those anyway. And then I'm just going to color in some black with my pen right inside the mouth, but not too much, just enough to show the separation of the top and bottom jaw. Okay. This is very wild looking. And what's neat about this is I didn't have to worry about going in here and putting in every single little scale or anything that would take up too much time to do. I'm just letting the crisscrossing actions of my pen dictate where the details are going to go. And I'm noticing now that I think I need to make those termite mounds, I'm going to call them termite mounds because I don't know what else to call them, come out at us to give a little bit of a 3D effect. Uh-oh, we got a neighbor a neighbor dog barking. Might have to stop the video, unless you guys want to hear a dog barking. There we go. Maybe the whole thing is covered with these strange skin protrusions. Ooh, man. What if those are little eyes? This thing has really evolved. And to think, it kind of started off looking like a plant, looking like an onion. I don't know. I don't know what's happening. But it's kind of fun. So these thumbnails are a little bit more thought out. It's a little bit more experimenting. But I think we're getting somewhere. And notice how I'm drawing not just thumbnails for creatures, but I'm trying to create a scene. So if you're buying a sketchbook for the first time, you're opening it up and you don't know what to put in here, think of your subject matter as something that belongs to a story. Okay, it's always good to tell a story with your creations instead of just doing random stuff, especially those of you that are looking for jobs. Not just within the industry, but let's say you just want freelance jobs, trying to get anybody that'll pay you money to produce something awesome. Tell a story with your work. This way, we're looking at the scene right now and going, hey, this little soldier happened to walk into what appears to be land where multiple giant monsters live, but they're not aggressive towards it. This creature over here is kind of curious about that little warrior. Notice how it dipped down its head, and maybe it's raising its arm because it is curious, but it's not charging him. And then this warrior right here, let's put in a little, maybe like a little hood, so we'll thicken up the neck. Okay, maybe a little backpack on. They're traveling. Okay, you got it. I don't want it to be dude with a spear or dude with a staff, just because we've seen that 7,928 times. Okay, so these little things may come out due to territorial warning. I scoot this in a little bit. Okay, and then what I want to do now, let's add some color to this, and I think that'll be really fun. So, okay, I grabbed some more colorful markers here from Ho2, and I think I'm going to just place in some earth tones because I want this creature to seem like it's coming from the planet itself. It lives in a jungle. So I want the colors on it to reflect that. It's nothing too bright, but I think I might put in some brighter colors here in a second. So the reason why I'm putting these markers on top of the pen is because pen looks a little better when you mix the marker in with it. Now typically what I'll do is I'll put in gray first, and then I'll put marker down or pen on top of it. But in this instance, I'm just being very sparing with it, and I think it'll work out well. So the other thing is this critter up here needs an accent color, and a brighter color, something orangish, I think will look good. So let's just pretend that this creature lives in a tropical climate. I get a lot of my influence from tropical insects and such. We're going to leave the beak white, and then we'll put some on this appendage up here, and then some more orange up here, and then maybe like one little hint on the hands, or the feet, I guess. So the big one's in the back. I actually don't want to forget drawing the big one in the back. I got to find my pen. There we go. Oh, wait, no, I already drew it. It was just he was spreading his leg out. There we go. Okay, that's kind of cool. Next thing is, why don't we just do a gray? I don't know how that's going to look, so maybe that can be a shadow. Yeah, this is beautiful. Kind of has a purplish vibe to it. So let's do that. So it'll just be a thick cast shadow. Okay, and maybe some cast shadows up here on those strange little eyes. Okay, we got that just on the hand there, and then down here on that arm. And then from there, we could also get bright with this one, but we're not going to use orange. Instead, we're going to go hot pink because we can. All right, hot pink creature. There it is, and then maybe the crazy eye stalks or termite mounds can also be pink. and I'm just going to hint at that. I'm not going to go overboard in the back. I don't want to do that. But we're going to need to counteract this hot pink with something cool. So I don't want to go overboard with another strong marker. I'm going to pick a very, very light gray / peach. It's still a warm color, but I think it's not going to, yeah, that might be a little too much for the pen around there, so I think I'm just going to use that very, very sparingly. A little in the hand. Okay, we got that. Now, that could be the eyeball right there, but we don't know. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed today's lesson. We'll watch little Mitchell here meet these big critters in a land because he's, just surveying the land, wondering what's going on. Comment below, say hi to Mitchell. You can name the creatures too. Here's number 1, here's number 2. No, they're not named number 1, number 2. They could be brothers, they could be cousins, sisters, I don't know. But I'm just going to touch this up here as I wrap up the video. So if you check the links in the description, you're going to see a link for creature design for film and games that I teach. I'm currently teaching the winter term, but if you would like to sign up for the spring term, you are more than welcome to. There's plenty of time. Spring doesn't start till April for our school. And I go through 8 weeks teaching you about the fundamentals of creature design. We do reference gathering. We do bone structure, anatomy, functional features. We really flesh out the creatures that you are inventing. Now, the other thing I want to point out is our awesome Discord. It is a bustling community. We hit 6,000 members. This community is for all skill levels, not just industry veterans where you can draw like nobody's business. No, it's for everybody. We do monthly creature design challenges based on a brief that I give. We have a voting system where it's just for bragging rights, just for fun. You don't win money. You don't win anything other than, hey, I designed this really awesome thing, and then we post it. And then the other thing that I want to mention is I run a private mentorship. I take in all skill levels. So if you're wondering about if you're good enough to actually take a mentorship, that's backwards thinking. You take a mentorship because you want to get better at something. Always remember that. All right, so if you want to get better at the fundamentals of sketching, fundamentals of drawing in general, like cubes, cones, cylinders, and spheres, value, line weight, line quality, we're going to start you off in the right way so that you don't form bad habits and you're drawing for 10 years and you're wondering why your drawings have not improved. Okay, and then we have more in-depth lessons too. It's all based on what you tell me you want to get better at. All right, so email me at bobbyrebholtz@gmail.com for more information. You can also find it on our Discord. Okay, so if this was your first sketchbook go around, hopefully this helped you. Let me know how it went. Let me know if you're still staring at blank paper. That's totally okay. Until next time, peace. Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. So in continuation of my thumbnail lessons, I'm going to be taking grayscale marker. So this is a 20% cool gray from Prismacolor. And today's theme is aquatic creatures. So over the past, I would say 5 or 6 videos about thumbnails, I've been focusing a lot on arachnids, crustaceans, and pretty much any creature that looks like a spider or some kind of not so friendly insect. But I thought today would be neat if we concentrate on the aquatic life, something that I haven't really tackled, but offers some really neat silhouettes and creatures themselves. I think in movies, a lot of times aquatic creatures don't really get a good rap. It's mainly because they're not as popular, but I think, if we spend time and really study them, there's some pretty outrageous and gnarly alien stuff that already live on planet Earth. Things that we normally don't even think about on a day-to-day basis. Why would we though, right? We got more things to worry about up here on the surface than what's swimming around in the Mariana Trench. And I would love to go there one day, but that's not going to happen. So I'm just going to draw stuff that maybe could be there. All right. So we have a fish-like shape, and if you were following along with me, you can definitely do this too. So if you think you suck at drawing and it's immediately going to look bad, I want you to erase that mindset, and then I want you to come to the conclusion that it's okay to fail, and that by failing, and not even failing, just putting lines together to see what happens, that's going to mostly unlock all that creative freedom that you have built up in there. And with this particular critter, I mean, I knew it was going to be aquatic. I knew there were going to be fins, but other than that, pretty much I'm just following the silhouette of what happened with my marker. I did know in the beginning that I wanted it to be a regular fish shape, you know, like a guppy, goldfish, shark, koi fish, whatever. And then just start putting some extra fins on here just to see where it goes. But the technique that I'm doing is I have the grayscale marker underneath. It kind of gives the, I guess, the outline for it. And then I have a Bic ballpoint pen, black, and I'm just going to go over the shape and make up my own anatomy. Now this technique is a lot of fun because when you start splashing down the gray that would make up the body, all of the little details that fall in between, it's pretty much up to you. Now, if you study a lot about fish anatomy and marine life in general, you know that the possibilities are endless. I mean, we have squid, we have shark, like sea urchins, stingray, all kinds of stuff that's going on down there. And if you just start piling these together and seeing what works and what doesn't work, you can come up with some really cool stuff. So here I'm just splashing on some ink, and maybe there are some areas in the body here where I'm pretty satisfied with the shape, so I'll darken it up a little bit, you know, like this in here. This is probably the head, I would assume. So if I wanted to get a good eyeball in here, fish eye is pretty easy. All you got to do is just color in black, leave a little bit in the center for a reflection, and you're pretty much good. So we're not going to go alien with this per se, you know, like multiple eyes, tentacles, those kinds of things. I want to keep this as grounded to reality as possible and more familiar than what I normally draw. But what I'm doing here is hatching in some shadows that could exist on the bottom of the body, and then darkening up some edge work. So we put in some details, and it looks like the fins do have some little grooves here, little spikes. Alright, outline some of the body so that we can get a better picture of what the silhouette is actually doing. There you go. And maybe this creature has like a little horn in the front. I think that'd be kind of neat. But we do need to darken more on the bottom because we want that to show the shadow of where it would exist. Same thing with the bottom of the chin here. Alright, and what that does is it helps ground the animal. Ground the animal as in making it look like it's occupying 3D space on a 2D background or a 2D plane. Because that's one of the hardest things to do. That's why so many artists just obsess about shading, because, you know, it brings in the ultimate 3D look. It looks realistic. It's like it's occupying real space. So ultimately, that's what you want. There we go. Okay. Now for this one, I could add some color. Why don't we do that? I'm going to go... I'll put in some blue here. Oh wait, no, not that end, because that will bleed. Maybe something on the fin and some stripes going down the fin. That would be kind of cool. And the same thing with this fin on the side. Alright, so we want some repetition with that design, because that's actually a cool looking palette right now, just gray and this blue. So maybe that's where the blue exists here, and then on the back here in the tail, maybe it's more pronounced. Alright, and then just kind of fade it off. So it's got a blue tail. Alright, that's our first thumbnail. If you are enjoying this, you know, comment below, tell us what you're working on. And also, if you have a name for this critter, please do. What if it was like an anglerfish? What if it did this? Did that. We'll just put that in there for fun. Now it's complete. Now I feel better. Okay, let's move on. If you have markers, that would be awesome, because you can get a silhouette in there without marker, just if you have some random shading and you cover an area. But I think this would be much easier because it's a fatter tip and it covers an area really quickly. So this little critter, I don't know, it kind of looks like a seahorse. I don't know if that's the head. Maybe it is the head. By the way, my radiators are going, so you probably hear this weird hissing sound in the back. I had to turn some of them off. So this is a very small animal. However, one thing that would be cool is if this one actually did have some tentacles. So it looks like, almost like crayfish, some kind of crawdad. There we go. But I don't know about that head. I think I'm just going to keep it there. Let's see what happens when we add ink to it. Okay, there we go. I'm keeping my hands very loose. I'm not gripping the pen hard at all. But I am pretty happy with the overall silhouette. I'm throwing that term out just because if you're not familiar with what these terms are, the silhouette is the shape that you see as a whole. If everything is filled in with one color, you could do it with black marker or whatever. The silhouette is showing the outline of it. And if you have a good outline for it, then it's most likely going to get much more attention just because it's eye-catching, and a good silhouette for a character in general is great for a game. There we go. Okay, and then the other thing is about silhouettes is if your creature or character has a good silhouette, then when people play it in a video game, they're immediately going to see that it's recognizable. And that's when you know you're successful, because you don't want your designs to be just like there, an NPC, if you will. You can really hear that hissing now in the background. What if we put like a little row, not really spikes, but kind of like a bony protrusion where the spine is? Because it looks like the head. Because like with the head, I'm thinking about doing something pretty gnarly. What if we just have this really big hook-like shape? And since this is a mysterious aquatic animal, maybe it exists on a planet with nothing but oceans. Kind of like Miller's planet in Interstellar. But there's some pretty wild stuff here on Earth too. Like those microorganisms and even the bigger animals that live in the volcanic vents underwater where the air temperature is 1200 degrees, or not air temperature, water temperature. Pretty crazy that they can survive there. They just swim right through it. Tardigrades even. Like tardigrades can live in space and you can freeze them, you can burn them, which is why I don't think they're from here. Okay. Wow, that escalated quickly. That went from a weird little seahorse thing to something I do not want to ever pet. These could be the eyes, so let's darken that up. Yeah. Oh, that's so gross. Why is it that gross, scary things tend to impress more than cute, fuzzy things and easily recognizable evil things? I don't know what it is. If something is gross, we have to watch it. Maybe that's why The Thing was so successful. There we go. Okay. We'll give it a little shadow. Even though the body's really not as big as this one, I don't know, it still packs a little bit of a punch here. But we have to make sure that each body part is looked after so that nothing looks like it was left behind. That's the other thing. If you're sketching a creature right now and it has a lot of tentacles or some form of body parts hanging off of it, and there's a lot, please be careful about how you go about designing that, because it could be random. It could be the whiskers of a cat, because they just jut out everywhere from the face. However, they all have a purpose. So if you're sketching a creature and it's got just like a bunch of spikes or a tuft of hair on the head. Why is that there? You know, does it have a tuft of hair on the other parts of the head? If it has spikes, are the spikes common? Like, can you see them in multiple parts of the body? That's what you need to be careful of. Okay, so I think this one will need some color, and I'm going to use that hot orange, so I know that one will look kind of cool. So I think the hot orange will look good right about there. And then those are the eyes, so I don't want that. But it could be a defense mechanism. So maybe the eyes are in the front here, and then this orangish patch on the head acts like a gigantic eye to scare them off. That would be kind of cool, actually. And then we'll just put some of these colors down here to kind of help with that continuity. Okay. Oh, if you're wondering what I got on top of the page there, just more like crustacean critters and stuff. This is a blue ballpoint pen. So I'm just filling up the rest of that page. Let's move on to our next one. This is so much fun. Okay. I don't want to do a shape that I've done here, but I also don't want to do a jellyfish-like shape just because, you know, I've done a lot of tentacled stuff. So what if this one doesn't have a tentacle? What if we do something long and skinny, kind of like an electric eel, but in this case there are certain parts on the body where it gets thicker, maybe because it looks like a bloodworm actually, but there are parts on there where it looks like some body parts are coming up like as a fin. Okay, look at all those little fins, and then maybe the tail. Thing is, when you're designing these things, try to think about the function even though it's at the raw stage. You don't have to have everything perfect. So like this right now, I don't even know if, yep, those are teeth. So I guess it's like a bloodworm. A swimming bloodworm. That's even more terrifying. And then these are the little fins that help the body move along. Ooh, that's kind of cool actually. Think about how quick this thing might be. Let's see what that looks like from here. Yeah. And then what you can do is you can put in some really cool razorback like fin shapes. There we go. Like a crazy eel. I don't know, name this one below. Here's one. Here's two. This is going to be three. So if you want to name three, what can we name three? Better yet, what is it for all you aspiring creature artists out there? What is this thing? And what is its specialty? That's my call to action to all of you today. What is this creature and what is its specialty? If you can come up with a neat one, I'll give you a shout out in the next video. By the way, shout out to all my channel members too. I just added a new tier on my channel. This tier is going to be starting next week, where certain channel members can get access to my videos before they're made public, so you get to watch it before everybody. It'd be kind of fun. Okay, this one, this creature, man, I'm gonna have to draw those fins on the other side too. You got to be careful when you shade with pen, because you can fill in the gaps, yes, but if you go too quickly and try to, or not too quickly, but too slowly and try to fill everything in, you're going to end up shading with a pen. And if you want that loose feeling that you get with ballpoint pen, it's going to go away, because then you just start putting in a lot more details. So you got to be 100% sure that it's what you want. There we go. Okay. It's pretty cool. Let's see what we can do with color on this one. Let's make it this green color. There we go. I can probably fade in some red with that green, or maybe orange with that green. That would be kind of cool. All right, so if you were a complete beginner and you don't really know where to start or how to start when it comes to sketching thumbnails and knowing what looks good and what doesn't look good. I just want you to embrace the fact that if you just take a marker, take a pen or pencil, and start laying down shapes, you'd be surprised at what your brain can come up with. Now, people are creative in different ways. So let's say you do start drawing, but your penmanship doesn't look good. You know, the details look bad, your line work looks bad. You say you can barely draw a stick figure, etc. That's okay, because maybe art will come through in another way for you. Okay, maybe you have really good ideas, and then somebody else is supposed to draw that. And there's nothing wrong with that. Another possibility is that if you're drawing and nothing good comes out, then maybe it's not your art. Maybe it's you being scared that you don't have good art. And I think that's a big killer right there, especially for folks that, you know, are constantly saying, oh my gosh, I'm not good, I'll never get there, I'll never get there. Yeah, you're right. You're not going to get there because you keep telling yourself that you're not going to get there. And I know it's a little harsh to hear that, but it's true. There's a quote that I've heard, I think it was from Henry Ford. It said, whether you say you can't or you can, you're right. And even though it's kind of in your face, and you know, many people can make arguments against that, a lot of it does reign true though. So, you know, if you have project anxiety or performance anxiety when you're sketching, just know that if you constantly tell yourself that you're going to fail at it, then you're going to fail at it. You know, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And here I am just yapping away when I draw this Dunkleosteus looking thing, and I didn't even mean to. I did not mean for this head to look like a Dunkleosteus. So we're going to have to change this. I don't know how. Actually, I do. I'm just going to give it a very big bottom jaw, just for fun. Let's color that back in gray. Make sure I don't hit too much of the ink. And then maybe this creature has a hardened beak. I think that'd be kind of neat. The hook at this chin right here, this very, very powerful looking hook, maybe that is a way for the creature to catch certain prey. You know, like maybe this fish is super fast and it needs a strong body and a strong jaw to hold on to what it captures. Okay. Now here I'm trying my best to fill in what I think could be a cool looking tail, because I didn't give a lot of information on the side of this body other than there were some big lumps, and we'll see what happens. So maybe I'll just move it over here a little bit. Whenever you draw aquatic life, it's probably best to take the eyelids out of the equation and just have the eyeballs be fish-like. Just because you think about being underwater, and a lot of fish don't blink. Like the majority of stuff that swims doesn't blink. You know, really, unless you're a mammal and you leave the water and you go on the ground, and you know you got to blink because of air. But other than that, a lot of the fish just don't blink. It also makes it stronger, like creepy factor and mood-wise. If you just have these jet black eyes, similar to squid, similar to great white shark. There we go. Boy, if we had some sharp teeth in there, ooh, very deadly. All these little markings that I'm putting here are just helping my cause. You know, it's part of the skin texture that could exist. So it's up to you or me to bring that out. So I think there is going to be shadow right under this part of the jaw. Like so. And then layering up these lines, you can start to see a huge difference in texturing without actually freaking out about texture. What if we did this? We are about to get pretty gnarly with our creature. Now it's going to stop at the beginning of the end of the head, because I want the body parts to be separate. There is continuity there, so there may be some more bumps, maybe a back fin. But I think this thing is all face, and it's really creepy. But of course, once it turns in front view, it probably looks completely different. There we go. So hopefully you're scribbling along with me. Make sure you date, and you say to yourself, or you date your, page. You say to yourself, I'm going to use this for a project in the future. We are slowly building up our library of reference images, and we didn't even know it. And the reference images being your own drawings. There we go. Okay, so let's darken the bottom here. See how quickly I'm moving? I'm not really focusing on anything else. Thick to thin lines, making sure I have little controlled bursts going everywhere. And then the body looks believable enough in that it's got a tail, it's got dorsal fin, anal fin, and it's got the big one in the front. So I want those to look separate. So maybe it comes out right here. So it looks like a gill that it comes out of, but it's not. So let's put in some shadow here. I love putting in shadow with pen. It just looks cool. It just looks cool. Put a little hunchback on that thing too. And then whenever you would be ready, you could just refine this however you seem fit. And you always have this one as a, like a backup. Okay, there we go. Nice. So if you like today's lesson, comment below, let me know. And if you would like to be mentored by me, I've been teaching for a better part of 13 years now. Please email me at bobbyrebholz@gmail.com or check the pinned comment below. And I also have links in the description and pinned comment for our Creature Design Workshop Discord. This is where we run the mentorship through. The Discord itself is free to join, but I do have a fee for my mentorship. So if you're interested, email me or just join the Discord and DM me on there too. Pretty open to communication. Also, I will be teaching creature design for film and games at Computer Graphics Master Academy for the 8th year now, and winter term is coming full steam. People are signing up, and classes begin January 23rd. So check the link in the description for my course, quote unquote my course, and then also in the pinned comment. And it's a real curriculum, 8 weeks worth, and you get a lot out of it too. All right, so I hope today's lesson was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun drawing these. And if you have any questions, you can email me or comment below. Hey, like and subscribe too, if you enjoyed yourself. I'll catch you all later. Peace. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. So today, the lesson is going to be thumbnail sketching, but there's going to be some changes compared to my previous videos. The first change is the size of the thumbnails. Now before, I was drawing in my smaller sketchbook. It was probably, I think, 4x7, maybe 4x6. This one is 8.5 by 11. And then the second change is I'm using a black Prismacolor. So these markings are going to show up a little darker than my 4B pencil that I typically use. So if you get your sketchbooks ready, get your pencil sharpened. If you want to draw with a pen, that's totally fine. And I want you to explore some sketches with me. And it doesn't matter your skill level, all right? And also, I do want to give a disclaimer. If you are venturing in from the YouTube algorithm because it just happened to suggest this video to you and you have no idea why you're here, hopefully I can spark your imagination and help you doodle a little bit. Because even if you have no desire of being an artist, it's very therapeutic to just get those sketches out. We all need those outlets. And as far as what I'm drawing right here, I'm just kind of letting the lines fall where they may. And if I see an interesting shape, I'll add to it. But for the most part, they're going to be really loose gestures. My specialty is designing creepy crawly things that could either hurt you or that you want to pet. Sometimes I do cute things, but for the most part, they're not cute. Actually, as a matter of fact, most of my stuff is quite creepy, but I mean, who's judging, right? Okay, so we're just starting things off here with a little critter. So if you're drawing right now, just give yourself a little ground plane like I did, and I stopped right there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to the second drawing. You see how loose I'm being. I'm also holding the pencil loosely. Okay, so I have probably about half of it, like the real estate, covered up with my hand. I'm using the pinky to guide my hand across the page. And the reason I'm giving a ground plane in here, it helps me ground the object. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. I like giving my critters some ground to stand on. And since these are going to be a little bit bigger, I'm going to place just a little bit more emphasis on some of the shading. A little bit more than what I typically do for my little thumbnail sketches. Because regardless of what it is, bugs, dragons, little demons, like, it doesn't matter. It's always nice to ground your creatures in reality at somewhat by showing the ground plane and that they're occupying 3D space. And what I also like doing is just fading off a little bit of, I guess you can call it mist, because it makes it seem like it's living and breathing inside of like an atmosphere or some kind of biome. I love using black Prismacolor because it gets really, really dark really fast. The only thing about black Prismacolor is you can't erase it. So I just want you guys to know that when you're sketching along with me, or if you're just going on a sketchbook adventure by yourself at a cafe and you're sitting there one day, if you're at work right now and you're on lunch break or something, please know that you have total creative freedom with your sketches. It doesn't matter if you consider yourself not an artist and you feel like you have no creativity, you don't know how people come up with this kind of stuff in their heads, I just want you to know that we as artists, we come up with this stuff because of our observations of the real world, our video games that we play, the movies that we see. So if you consider yourself just not an artist at all and you have not one lick of talent, it's all about what you see in the real world and how you interpret it on the paper. You do have a lot of stuff in your head right now. There is a lot. You just need to be able to channel that and get it out. The best way to do it is to doodle. Now let's just keep throwing these lines down and let's see what happens. So a lot of these shapes in here I probably would want to be legs, but I don't know what they're going to end up being. Maybe this is a giant slug / spider. I don't know. It's got like a lot of whiskers coming out of it too. You see how I'm getting darker and I'm coloring or sketching over top of this thumbnail? This is an exploratory page. I want to be able to have total creative freedom when I'm doodling these things. I don't want to feel confined or constrained or anything. This is why I'm drawing larger. And also, for those of you that get right into detail really quickly, it's probably because you're drawing too small. All right, I want you to loosen up, sit up straight, have good posture when you sketch. That goes a long way in determining what type of lines you're going to have. For example, when we draw, we're not having anybody else watching us. We don't realize how bad our posture is. Like, it's pretty bad. And then our back hurts and the backs of our neck hurt. Like, we don't even realize the stress that we put our body in just by sitting at our desks. Sit up straight, and then when you start to sketch, make sure that you're looking down at the sketch page versus tilting your head to the side as if you're writing. Because what that does is if you tilt your head, it skews your perspective. And you may think that you're drawing straight lines or your vertical lines in a cylinder or of some kind of architecture. And then when you turn your sketchbook upright, you're just like, oh man, why is my entire structure leaning? Like, you don't even realize you're doing it. Okay, very lightly brushing across a ground plane, just like this. Comment below if you're having a lot of fun sketching along with me. Let me know what you're doodling too. I love hearing everyone's results when they're sketching, especially folks that haven't drawn in months and you didn't think that you were capable of doing what you're doing right this second. And then those of you that are stubborn and your sketchbook has been sitting in your closet for 4 or 5 weeks, now's the time to get those out. There we go. And again, I'm going to say this all the time. Your sketchbook is your diary, and nobody else has to see it ever. So don't worry about the things that you're putting in your sketchbooks being the best thing that you've ever drawn, because it doesn't matter. All of these things that I'm drawing right now, they could potentially turn into something. I mean, if you want to call it masterpieces at a later time, yeah, sure, why not? Why not? I mean, they're doodles, and I'm building up my own library of potential projects for my portfolio that could fill up an entire year's worth of working on it. Like, it's pretty cool how quickly this, elevates your design thinking, but also gives you a huge reference library for your own portfolios. It's great. So all these little scribble markings that I'm putting around are just indications of body parts. I don't even know what this thing is. It's almost like a walking serpent. Instead of a slithering serpent or something that comes out of the water. It looks like there's a big, like, poison sac right here. Maybe this is the back. Not sure. Maybe it ate somebody and that's where it's sitting right now. There's a lot of possibilities, but it's also a pretty gnarly little creation. And this is a testament to just going with the flow, letting your hand do the talking, really, and then you're just moving it along. Seeing what happens. Put in a little core shadow right here, since this is a very rounded creature. And I think I want to make this shape pretty rounded, almost like a poison sac, or not a pus sac, but maybe it's got babies inside there. Maybe it's about to hatch and all the babies are coming off. Ooh, that's gross. I also talk to myself when I sketch because it helps me. So, just to let you know, I'm crazy. So this is a pretty asymmetrical face. It kind of looks like the face of a termite, but I'm totally fine with that. I'm just going to keep going. So I got me 3 up top here. If you're learning something, comment below. Tell me what you end up with. Tell me if you're drawing something that you didn't think you were ever capable of drawing. That to me, I think, is the ultimate goal for any artist. Draw something that you didn't think you were capable of drawing. And doing these thumbnails definitely will. And I want to show you an example. Check this out. Let's say you have no idea what you want to sketch. Let's say you think you suck at drawing. You got a pencil, you got a paper, you don't know how to start it. Throw lines down like this. Pressing lighter, pressing medium, and then pressing harder like this. Okay, so what do we got here? We have ourselves what could be a floating creature, a spaceship, or maybe both. Who knows? So let's take a look at the darker lines first, followed by the larger shapes. So we kind of have a silhouette already, but we don't really know what to do with these dark lines that we just happen to scribble right across that body. Or do we? So let's say that the darker lines are going to hold the shadows to some kind of shape. We don't know what, but we're going to start shading right underneath it. Just like this. So I'm applying small bits of pressure and I'm fading that pressure off into the rest of the scribble under here. The next thing we need to do is we need to figure out where is the very bottom of that random shape that I just drew. So the bottom is that semi-light line, and it's broken up into, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 bubble shapes. So let's darken those just a little bit so we can clearly see it. Or better off, you guys can clearly see it. I'm the one looking at this sketchbook. I don't know how it looks on the screen, so hopefully you guys can see it. Okay, so we have what looks to be the tail end of something, and then we have 1 rounded spot, and then 2 rounded spot, and then what appears to be the front of whatever this thing is. And then on the top, we have this really cool dome shape. So yeah, it kind of does look like a spaceship / insane weather balloon. But we need to change some stuff. All right, so we need probably to put some tops on these 2 sharp pieces popping off. And then what do we have? We have a set of double wings. All right, cool. And then the next thing, we can interpret this a little bit to an insect head, almost like a rhinoceros beetle, a moth, something along those lines. So let's say we just connect it to that nice little mound going up here. There we go. It's a nice smooth mound. And then this little bit coming out, maybe that's an extra sensory organ. So if you look at this dark line coming down, I still need to figure out what to do with that. So I'm just going to continue the darker shading under that line and then fade more of the dark sketching out to those round spots under the belly. Because I'm convinced now that whatever I drew, this whole top part is a housing to like a fleshy body or something. I'm saying or something because this is forming as I'm sketching it, as I'm speaking to you guys. So I think I just had this idea. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going to put these rounded plates. I don't want to do anything spiky. Kind of want to change it up a little bit. Just the rounded plates going across that back. And then maybe under here, we can put tiny little ovals just kind of hanging, just kind of chilling out. And wouldn't that be neat is if this creature was almost like a caterpillar with tons of, like hundreds of legs, but it could also fly. But it hasn't turned into a butterfly yet. So that's the crazy thing about this critter. Okay, and this could be the little navigation tail. So I'm just going to put some more values here. Now, the other cool thing is I have this really neat shape coming into the front. I'm just going to scribble on some more shapes lightly. I'm not going to go too dark. And I think the lines that I put there originally probably made up a good silhouette, so I'm just going to color those in. Those little extra lines didn't really work. And that's just the joy of sketching. Like you don't know if they're going to work or not. But it's easier to find out. So I like those little feet, I guess, those little arms. So I'm just going to fade off some dark to light, and then it's going to go into this underbelly. I am convinced that something is going on under there because this body is very deeply inset. Okay, well there we go. There's a bug / spaceship, I guess you can call it. On to the next one. See, this is the fun about thumbnail sketching. If you're sketching along with me and you're coming up with something that you didn't even think you were capable of, you are already successful tonight. So congratulations. Show that off. Especially if your family members know you can't draw. Like if you can't draw, but you're just like, hey, I watched this dude draw some critters and I drew along with it and I drew some stuff. That's awesome. And then let me know what happens. You know, it would be the ultimate compliment for you is if you draw something and then your family members are going, you didn't draw that. Like that's good. Kind of reminds me, just on the same subject like that, but just a little different. Those of you listening right now that are artists and you've drawn in public before, sitting at a table, tell me in the comments if you've had somebody walk up to you and go, did you draw that? and you're in the physical act of moving the pencil on the sketch page. Like, how are you supposed to answer that? You know what would really get them is if you said no, and then you just kept drawing on the page. That would be pretty funny, actually. I've never done that, but I'm willing to guess that their reaction would be like, wait, what? Yeah, because they already knew the answer to their original question. There we go. I love black prism color. It can get so dark. I don't even know what I drew. I mean, look at that thing. It's kind of like a big monster hand coming at us. Okay, I'm done for that one. Let's move on. Let's do something over here. So I'm not pressing as dark over here, mainly because I got kind of dark on those other ones, but I'm not really sure that those were working well. Oh man, this almost looks like a fat penguin. So let's see what happens. I inadvertently drew a beak here, almost like a proboscis. Okay, so this part, that could be the head. See, I drew little flippers on the side. Totally not intentional, but instead of a beak right there, yeah, I drew a little belly. cute little fella. Maybe a double set. No, that probably wouldn't work. But what I am going to do is I'm going to help ground this creature. So I'm just going to darken in the corner where the belly hits the ground, and then I'm just going to release some pressure there. And I'm also going to do the same thing over here. I would draw some cute little feet there. But wait, why not? Cute little feet. Oh, look at this guy. He's creepy and cute at the same time. There we go. He's got a lot of markings over here. Maybe those are scales. That'd be kind of neat, actually. So I'm just going to do shading and just little rounded bits. So if you enjoyed your little sketch session tonight, let me know. Let me know what you're working on in school. If you have you're doing this as a hobby, I would love to hear it. I want to thank everybody for tuning into my channel. You guys rock. Okay. And there's our thumbnail lesson where we drew larger and with the black Prismacolor. So now you keep going. I want you to keep going and fill up the page. Okay, till next time. Peace. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. So I have several lessons all compiled into this video. You're probably wondering what the scribbles are, why did I number these rows, and why are there lines without anything on them? So I'm going to get into that in a second. But first, get your sketchbooks out, especially those of you that have not drawn in a while and you're wondering what can come along to help spark that enthusiasm again. So this is what I like to call my Weekend Warrior Sketchbook Edition. I'm going to be doing a lot of these. You're going to be viewing this on a Saturday, so what better day to do it than, spend the weekend or start the weekend off with some good doodles. Get your minds going, especially if you're artists or if you're feeling creative and you don't really know where to start though. Get those sketchbooks ready. You can have a ballpoint pen or you can have a B pencil, an H pencil, whatever you're comfortable with using. And I want you to fill the entire page with small dashed lines, and then I want you to number them. So it's probably looking a little strange for you. You're probably thinking, well, aren't you supposed to draw everything first and then number when you're done? Well, it just depends on how you look at it. Today's lesson is about organization. Okay, it's about cleanliness and it's about presentation. Me coming from a concept art background for video games and film, the more organized I've been throughout my career, the easier it has been for teams and clients to understand what the heck I'm actually doing. Okay, you want to get the concept out. Anybody can doodle. Okay, my whole channel is dedicated to thumbnailing and getting back into sketching and getting the creative juices flowing. I feel like a lot of people lack the presentation side of showing their art in the best light possible. And it's not just with sketching. It's also with 3D art too. We have 3D artists that can sculpt beautiful sculpts, but all of a sudden their lighting is really bad. So if their lighting is bad, then the team isn't going to be able to trust them putting the models in game engines and having it lit inside there because they're going to be responsible for that. Well, what your sketchbook page shows the client and shows yourself is that 1, you can self-edit, 2, you're orderly, and 3, you're organized. It's a very good trait to have if you're organized. Less work you have to do later, the more organized you are now. All right, you can see here I'm just taking a standard Bic round stick and I'm putting in some smaller details here. Now I didn't spend too much time on that thumbnail. I'm going to move on to the next one. You see how as I'm moving on, I already have my sections for me and they're ready. So I'm just going to go on to the next one. Now I'm pretending that a client needs an alien life form for their next game. All right, maybe it's an NPC, or maybe it's a boss character or a boss creature, maybe a pod, and disgusting creatures are born from it. Like, who knows? I want to give the client the absolute best possible silhouettes. All right, so the more orderly I am, the more I can show off these silhouettes. Now, the other thing that this helps with is look at my sketches right now and notice the gap in between each drawing. This gap right here with nothing in it is allowing my eyes to rest between each concept. This is very clean, it's orderly, and it also helps me focus on one design at a time. But I can see the silhouette so much easier now if I simply add some space in here. And also, let's say that I want to go back to an idea and add something to it. Well, guess what? I have enough room for that now. So I'll just get back into that. And, for example, the shape of this creature right here looks like there can be some tentacles coming out. Okay, there's a tentacle. And then maybe there's one in the back here. Add a little bit of chaos. Chaos as in making sure that these tentacles are all flowing and pointing in a different direction to keep the viewer guessing. It's all about the viewer. Again, me being a concept artist for games, I'm constantly thinking of, hey, if I was playing this game, would I enjoy seeing that creature in the game? Or do I just want to shoot it in the face? Okay, if you're playing a first-person shooter and you just find a beast in the background and you just want to shoot it for points, then is it going to be cool enough to do that, or is it going to be cool enough to look at? So you have to think of all these different factors. Now, I'm not spending a lot of time on tiny little details like every speck of spike and fur and scale and all that stuff. But knowing when to stop is a huge part of keeping your pages clean. So I've done 3 already, and I have my row cut out for me already. Number 4, number 5, number 6. So let's jump to number 6. Let's look at these silhouettes first. So I want to try hard not to repeat those silhouettes. So I'm just going to go to the next one. Now, I've been doing a lot of bulbous poison sac-like shapes, so maybe this one can be long and flat. Okay, that'll be challenging because I'm not doing a spaceship and I'm not doing props. I'm doing a creature. But who's to say that a creature can't be shaped like a rocket with the fin on there? So let's see what happens. I mean, think about the beetles of the world. They have, speaking of beetles, what if I just give it some really cool little front legs here and then maybe 2 in the back? Okay, and then the tail honestly can just be some wings folded in the back, and that's it. Now again, these are thumbnail sketches. They're not supposed to take long. Those of you watching me right now, I just want to take the time and welcome you. If you've strolled into my channel because the algorithm told you to watch me doodle these things, but you've never drawn before and you have no interest in becoming an artist, maybe, just maybe, you got an old steno notepad in your briefcase, or maybe you have an old notebook and you want to doodle something. It's funny, well, it's not really funny, but it's cool when you talk to people that aren't necessarily artists. They don't devote their life to drawing. Every now and then they have this joy of just doodling stuff. We all doodle stuff, regardless if we're artists or not. We've had homework with artwork on it. We've had stuff come in the mail. We've been talking to somebody on the phone and they can't see you, but you're at your dining room table and there's an old envelope on the table, and guess what? There's a pen. What are you doing? You're doodling. So it's this really cool feeling you get when you just have a sketchbook next to you, regardless of how good you are as an artist, and you just start sketching and you feel so free. This is why I do this. This is why I teach this on my channel. I go in depth about thumbnailing and I show the importance of it, because these ideas that you're getting out on paper, I mean, who's to say that one of these you won't pluck into a project 2 or 3 years down the line? You are building your own reference library of critters, and it's something that you should be doing every day, especially if you want to be a creature designer. If you're an aspiring creature designer and character designer for that matter, because it's basically the same thing, then you should definitely get into this habit of thumbnailing like I am and filling these pages up. Okay, so this is our Weekend Warrior edition. The reason I'm starting this series on the weekends is because we tend to rest, yes, on the weekends, but we also kind of tend to forget what we're supposed to be practicing. When it comes to art, and when it comes to doodling and sketching and anything for that matter, it's an ongoing process because you either love it or you hate it. If you love drawing, if you love painting, if you love sewing and playing the drums, playing ultimate frisbee, whatever it is, you make time for it because you love it. And if it has to happen on the weekend, then it has to happen on the weekend. There have been hundreds and hundreds of Saturday evenings when I could have gone breakdancing at the clubs with my friends, but I decided to stay in and draw. Okay, and it adds up. It really adds up. So I'm not saying that those of you watching right now have to become passionate about thumbnail sketching. No, but this is definitely a practice to get into. To tie in today's lesson again about cleanliness and neatness of your sketchbooks, you are going to thank yourself when you have to search for something later on. Okay, I'm thinking in the future for you all. Hopefully you guys are filling up your sketchbooks this morning or afternoon or evening, and you're going to look back on this in 5 months, 2 weeks, a year, whenever that may be. Hopefully you're going to look back on your doodles and you're going to remember how much fun you had and also the good ideas that just came out. And here's the thing about your thumbnail pages, like the page that I'm doing right now. Not all of your designs are going to be pretty. No, they're not. As a matter of fact, you're probably going to hate most of your designs. And that's totally normal. The thing about thumbnail sketching is that not all the time is our first design the best one. All right, now that is something that was a hard pill to swallow when I was an aspiring concept artist and when I was in high school. Okay, when I'm a teenager and my brain's going and I'm thinking about the future and what I want to be when I grow up, you just want to produce the best stuff as quickly as possible, not putting in any of the preliminary work like thumbnail sketching. It's funny, I'm 44 years old. If I would have told my 18-year-old self, like, hey, you don't have to end up liking the very first sketch you did, and that's not going to be your final. You're going to do 25 other iterations. I'd have stopped myself right there and be like, you're insane. Like, there's no way I'm going to draw 15 different versions of the same thing and then choose one. Like, what is that? After you're doing the process for years and you start to realize, like, oh yeah, your older self is definitely correct now. So this looks like almost like a giant proboscis, but it's not, obviously. By the way, if you hear a lot of noises, like a lot of shuffling of feet, it sounds like my upstairs neighbors are taking the dinosaur to the local park. Like, it's so loud up there, like they're herding sheep. I don't know what's going on, but I think my mic can pretty much block that out, so that's good. All right, here we go. So we got some really good values happening in here on the side. Okay, so let's go over what we are doing tonight. We are talking about being orderly and being organized with your sketches, and we're talking about starting the project as nice as possible. All right, so keeping your page clean, and like you can see right here that I'm mixing black Prismacolor with a ballpoint pen. It's such a fun combo to do. All right, so let's recap on what we were talking about for today's lesson, because we mixed in a couple of the things. So one, we're talking about your organizational skills within your sketchbook, so keeping things nice and neat. Okay, we started with numbering and then putting our ground plane in, which is really important to do. And the second thing we started talking about is making sure that you're drawing on the weekends, making sure that you're utilizing your time as best as possible. If you really love drawing and you want to put a a lot of effort into it to get better. Again, this is the Weekend Warrior edition, so if you find that you have some time over the weekend, Saturdays, Sundays, and I'm going to be recording another video for Sunday also. I'm going to be doing this every weekend too. Make it a habit to find that time during the weekend to draw. It's like you're exercising your mental muscles. It's no different than waking up early in the morning so that you can go to the gym. Okay, it's the same kind of mindset. So the combo that I'm using here is putting black ballpoint pen down first, and then I'm taking black Prismacolor pencil and I'm putting in some values over top of the ink. And it offers a really neat effect because the ink is not smearing, that is dried already. And then the lines are showing through it as the gradient is lightened up across the body. So it offers a really neat effect. So what I'm doing here is I'm just putting in the darks, which is why I love the black Prismacolor. I'm putting in the darks right where the cast shadow on the body would be, especially from that flat body in the shell. Another neat little trick, and I've mentioned this a couple times, is if you want to help ground your creations, then darken it near the feet and then fade it up into the body. And then you add a little bit of the cast shadow onto the ground that's going to blend in with a darkened limb. And it offers like a really good attachment, like a finalized attachment. Looks good. There we go. Okay, so if you practice this every day, not just on the weekends, but every day, okay, draw the ground plane in, number your sketches, keep doing that. You're going to teach yourself self-editing, cleanliness, organization, and you're going to feel better about your sketches in general because you're going to be able to come back to these and appreciate how neat you were when sketching. Now, you don't have to. No, this is just something that you could try because let's face it, not all sketchbooks are pretty. They don't have to be. You can go in there and scribble all over the place. That could be paint and pastel, like whatever. But I hope this lesson was good. Let me know in the comments below if you have a brand new sketchbook and you're scared to draw in it. It's okay. Do what I just did. Doodle, organize it, and you're going to feel so much better. All right? Thanks, everyone. Peace. Hey, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Okay, so you can see that on my sketch page here, I have some groupings of spheres. So I have a large, a medium, and a small one. And then I have another one over here with a slightly different configuration. And then again over here. And then I started one over here. So here's the thought process behind this exercise. I'm going to take a large, medium, and small sphere, and I'm going to create a creature from it. Now those alignments of spheres can touch each other or they can be spread apart, however you want to do this. Just grab your pencils, grab your sketchbooks, and doodle along with me. This won't take very long. If you're impatient or if you are a beginner and you don't really know a lot about animals, anatomy, and maybe you've never drawn creatures before in your life. Well, this might change everything for you. As you can see here, it's not very fancy. It looks like just a bunch of bubbles. And that's exactly what it is. So we're going to make a big one over here. Very lightly put in that sphere, and then you're going to put in the secondary one and then the third one. It's kind of look like a planetary system almost. But definitely keep the groupings somewhat separated from the opposite grouping, just so you don't confuse one of the spheres. Okay, you want to keep these together as best you can. So let's start up here. How would I bring these together to actually form a critter that we've never seen before? Well, this is when I would start connecting each shape by very light gestural lines. And the gestural lines meaning you're capturing movement. And then you can start adding in legs and tentacles. If you want this to be Lovecraftian, it's totally up to you. But the key is don't get bogged down with details. Right now I'm putting in eyeballs in this bigger head because it kind of looks like a spider. I don't really know how this is going to turn out, and I think that's the beauty of it. But you can see here as I'm throwing these lines in here, I have a sharp pencil, okay, and you want to keep these pencils sharp at all times. But what I'm also doing is I'm just allowing myself to throw lines down without becoming obsessed about where they go. And this is one of the best tactics to thumbnail sketching in general. So if you're facing an art block and you don't really know how to come up with ideas, or you're not feeling really confident about how to search for reference, this is a really good method, because when it comes to creature design, you can kind of get away with fidgeting some areas and hoping for the best, and it still works, mainly because it's a creature and we've never seen it before. So maybe it lives on a planet that doesn't have a lot of oxygen, or maybe it's a really weird bulbous creature like this and it lives on a helium planet and it's a totally different kind of gas, and maybe it's lighter, it floats, who knows. Like these little eyeballs right here, they could be representing spider-like eyes, or maybe they're extrasensory organs and they're not even eyeballs, who knows. Maybe it's a defense mechanism. That is pretty terrifying, actually. It's kind of like a mutated ant. And I don't know what else, but it's very alien, so that's my excuse. But what I will do is I'll take some of the pencil markings and kind of work up some value on that head right there. That spherical head that I started. So remember, I started with just 3 spheres, that's it. And that's all I'm using. So now I can build off those areas. It's almost as if it has turned into a plant. But obviously I'm not drawing a plant. But what I will do is put some rows of spikes going down the spine. I'm calling it the spine just because I guess this is the head. It's the most fun shape for me, right out there in the front. There's no eyelids, so there's no real, or eyebrows I should say, so there's no real chance for facial expressions, but that's okay, because we can still bring out the personality of this creature simply by the posture, the stance, the weight distribution. You can see here that the creature's leaning forward with its neck. And now that we have established some of the body, it looks like this whole area right here is a major bending point. So maybe that's the chest or the abdomen. And then here are the legs. Kind of spider-like, but not really. We do need to separate those areas because it's kind of blending in. So for example, a neat little trick that I like doing, if ever I have a tentacle, a spike, a tooth, or something that's protruding from the creature that's relatively sharp, I will darken the tip of it and work up some lighter value as it moves into the body. What it does is it brings attention to the tip of it, and it makes it seem finished, like it was intentional. It is intentional for me, but I'm just saying, you don't want to feel like you haven't finished something. You want to move on quickly while still feeling confident about the thumbnail. You know what this needs? It does need some really crazy looking tentacles coming out of, or tongues coming out of that mouth. Okay, and another really cool thing to remember is if you do have tentacles, however you put them, make sure that you add a little bit of chaos into the design. So each tentacle, tongue, whatever it is coming out, they're all facing a different direction. You want to show movement within your creation so that it feels like it's a living, breathing thing on a 2D surface. That's key. All right, and then I don't want to just be boring with rounded feet, I guess you could say. So what I'll do is I'll put tiny little grabbers here, almost like beetle feet. Like little insect feet, I guess. And then I'll start to put some value up on the legs. In here doesn't really matter to me, only because the face is the focal point. So notice how I'm applying the pencil going straight down instead of at an angle. If I do it at an angle, what I do is I create a flat spot on the graphite, and then I will start shading with that area, and I don't want to shade it. All right, and then I also don't want to go overboard with that, so I'll just leave it. And then since this is farther back in the background because of atmospheric perspective and the body maybe going through some mist or something, I'm going to put a very light shadow. It's the cast shadow underneath the body, like this, so that it feels like it's living on a real surface. And I'm just going to hit this with another direction here to smooth it out. There we go. Again, the selling point is the face, that absolutely disgusting face. So our right side is going to be the core shadow, and I'm just going to add some value up here. And I like shading in small rotating circles, because if you shade in a circle or a flattened circle, you know, like an elliptical shape, the movement of going up and then back and then back and then back will cover areas that you missed in the previous pencil strokes. So that's nice. All right, let's move on. This is pretty crazy looking. Okay, so we have this one up here. I don't want to do that. So why don't we combine these two first? Maybe it's curved like this. And then maybe this little rounded part can be, maybe that's the head. Hey, that would be kind of neat. So let's put, it's almost like a giant grub then. So maybe that's a stinger. That could be a stinger. And then tons of tiny little legs right here. Maybe it's like a little baby or larva. I don't know, that's kind of gross. Like small wing right there. Yeah, that looks more like it. So that's going to be one gnarly stinger. Oh man. Kind of looks like the stinger on an executioner wasp, if I've ever seen that. Ooh. I used to watch a lot of Coyote Peterson when he deliberately got stung by an executioner wasp. So apparently on the Schmidt Pain Index, it's even worse than a bullet ant now. Of course, you got the velvet ant, you got the tarantula hawk wasp, you got all those very, very painful bites from insects and stings. Well, that one didn't take very long. I think it was because, you know, there was no real perspective. Nothing was coming at us. But it has given us a really interesting silhouette. I mean, the butt of this thing is massive. So maybe that's where all the venom is stored. And if we want to draw attention to that area, I'm just going to darken this up a little bit. Maybe we can put some stripes in there, like what's on a bumblebee. There we go. Also, the other reason why it's good to darken up the tips of appendages and, you know, tentacles and anything along those lines is because when you shade around it, have nice coating of graphite. That darker graphite that's sudden, it jumps out at us and it looks very 3D. There we go. So let's just darken that head, and then I'm just going to use back to back to back oval shapes, like I was telling you how I was shading this area in the core shadow. There we go. That's pretty nice. And then I think to add some deadly design right here, we're going to put a row of spikes going down the hunchback, just because that hunchback area is more prominent. Anytime I see a hunchback, I usually put, like if it's a werewolf or something furry, I'll put a bigger tufts of fur there or hair. There we go. This is so much fun. All right, and let's not forget this little fella over here. I'm going to say fella because I'm going to try really hard not to make this one look as deadly. As a matter of fact, you all are going to witness me do something incredibly rare. I'm going to try to make something look cute. If I fail, I'm not going to edit it out. So I really don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to try to draw big eyes. Oh my, oh, I don't know what just happened. Oh no, this might work. Okay. We'll put like a little nose right there. And then eyes like this. Okay, he's like a cute, creepy thing. I don't know if this is even going to work, but it's almost... Oh, man. I think I just made a blooper. Comment below what I should name this thing. It's almost like it's cute, but it's not. But I think it needs bigger ears. Maybe it's a creature that is disguising itself as something adorable, but it's really looking at you like it absolutely hates you, and it wonders why you're standing there looking at it. You know, like it really wants to do something. Okay, that's what it needed. It needed those goofy those little teeth right there, and then maybe like a cone head. Yeah, see? See, told y'all. It might be a complete failure, but you know what? I tried. It's all about the eyelids too. You know, like the eyeballs and everything. If you make stuff look cute around those places, you'd be surprised what you can pull off. It's kind of like Shrek, you know? There we go. Okay. Hey, that's not too bad. I mean, honestly, if I just put some padding on the feet here, like the toes, and then have like one big toe right here, because it's not anything on earth, and maybe like a small claw. There we go. Oh, look, it's like a little pig creature from another dimension, and it, you know, the poor thing probably was abandoned, and it just wants to find a home. There we go. I don't know, comment below, see if I have potential in drawing anything cute, or if I should just stay to totally horrific and demonic stuff from sci-fi horror. You know, I might have a career change here. Okay. I'm not really excited about that, but I did want to step out of my comfort zone. I think I was successful 80% of the time. Maybe there's some stuff that works here. Maybe not, but let's move on. I want to move on to this one down here. If you're enjoying this, then that's all that matters. Just that you can take a sketchbook that you probably haven't touched in a while, and you can doodle stuff without thinking too hard. That's what I want you all to do. This is what I want you to accomplish. Because, you know, whenever we're doodling, we tend to worry too much about what goes into the sketchbook, and that's not what needs to happen. What needs to happen is that you're progressing at your own speed, and you're not drawing to impress anybody. You're drawing to improve your own abilities, so that, you know, the actions speak for themselves. I like this one, actually. It's kind of like a praying mantis, but with fins if it swims. So I'm just going to add some extra ones down here. So non-deadly ends of hands and feet. Because like back here, it almost looked like the tail of a poodle. Okay, so let's just do that. Yeah, it's like a little pet. That's kind of cool. And I just realized that half that drawing the entire time was off camera. I'm so sorry, everybody. I get so caught up in my sketches, and I get, you know, my mind just gets fixated on them, that I tend to forget to look at the camera and be like, is this actually in frame? Like, I don't know. But there we go. So notice how I'm just floating from sphere to sphere and connecting them, you know, with imagining there's a chest cavity there, or hands or feet. Okay, just put like tiny little fingers in there, like really fat tufts of hands. The eyeball, I am going to put an eyelid in there. There we go. It really is like a praying mantis. So I think maybe on our left, I'll just put in that little core shadow right here. There we go. If you found it enjoyable today just watching me. If you've never been to my channel before and you happen to stumble upon it, comment below. Let me know if you actually whipped out a sketchbook for the very first time, or if you're a seasoned artist and it helped reinvigorate some of your lost enthusiasm, because of life taking over. Yeah, I totally understand, but I would love to hear about it. I'm running a private mentorship now. Please email me at bobbyrebholtz@gmail.com. I'm going over the very basics, the fundamentals of drawing. This is something I've been teaching for more than a decade now. So not the fancy creature stuff, not super duper shading and anything like that. It's cubes, cones, cylinders, and spheres, line weight, line quality, lighting, perspective, the fundamentals that almost every artist skips, and then they wonder why they can't get any jobs or get freelance. So I'm going to help you with that. The other thing that I do want to mention is signups are going on right now, early signups for my online creature design for film and games course. So that starts in mid to late April. I don't remember the exact dates, but you can check on the website, check the links in the description, as well as the pinned comment. Also, we have a Discord. So please join our Discord, Creature Design Workshop. No, you do not have to be just a creature designer. That is where all the fun happens, because you can share all the doodles that you make, good or bad, and share them with the community, get feedback if you have school projects, if you're looking for motivation, if you're looking for guidance. Everybody's there to help you. And it's been such a fun ride watching that Discord grow. I think we're at 6,500 members. I don't even know anymore. But the moderators help me with that. But anyway, everybody's welcome. Just keep it civil. And we're here to learn. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I love you being here. You guys have just been phenomenal in helping me grow this channel to where it is today, and it just keeps going. So every day I look at it and I'm just like, man, I know I shouldn't focus on that kind of stuff, but it's kind of hard not to when you're posting and trying to make stuff that resonates with all artists. Okay, look at that thing. It's like a cordyceps. Didn't even know. So before I sign off here, I want you guys to copy this right here, this array. Draw a large one, draw a medium one, draw a small one, and I'm not going to finish it. You will. So join the Discord, show us what you did. Or just tell us in the comments what you did, and then I'd be happy to see, read about it, hear about it, all that fun stuff. All right, until next time, everybody. Thank you. Peace. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Tonight, I want to talk about how we can use art as therapy. So let's take a step back and think all the things right now that are stressing us out. There could be a lot of things. It could be financial trouble. It could be family problems. It could be major anxiety, depression. There's a lot of things that we feel are out of our control, and we're just kind of letting time tick by just to see if the universe is going to allow us to heal or not. And look, we've all been there. Maybe some more severe than others. But I'm not a therapist, so I can't speak for everybody. But what I can do is tell you about my own experiences by using art. Art for me it's a great way out. Not out as in I hate everybody, but it's kind of like a nice little escape from reality. I don't play video games like I used to. I used to be on games, oh man. We're talking 9 o'clock at night until probably 3 or 4 in the morning. I was a big Halo player. I was, well, not to brag or anything, but I was semi-pro. I still got my butt kicked by a lot of the pros though. But anyway, that's besides the point. I used video games as an outlet. And what I found, ironically, was that video games stressed me out more. And then if I just turned the console off, and all of a sudden I wasn't stressed out anymore. So that's the funny side of it. Now, with drawing, you can use drawing as a form of therapy, because like right here, I'm just doing a little thumbnail sketch of a creature. So hopefully you got your sketchbooks along or you're sketching along with me with your sketchbooks and your pens, pencils, whatever tool you want to use. But I found that sketching is therapy. I used to draw at night a lot. It feels good to draw at night. I don't know why, but I think our brains operate differently at night. I used to be a night owl. Oh man. Having kids, you can't really be a night owl anymore. The energy's not the same. But all my stress would just disappear for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever. And I used to just lose myself in techno music and just doing some silly sketches of creatures or whatever I would be drawing. I would love to hear what you guys are drawing too. What are you guys drawing right now? Please share in the comments below. And if you want to talk about your art, if you want to show some of your art to, fellow comrades, please join our Discord. Check the link in the description, also the pinned comment. And our Creature Design Workshop Discord is open for business. It's for everybody. It's it's a bustling community. A lot of people are joining, all ages. We got high schoolers in there. We have teens, people in their 20s, 30s, 40s. I believe we even have some in their 80s. Just drawing, just having fun in their retirement. So it's a fun place to be. What is this thing? I have no idea what I'm drawing. It's so much fun. This is why it's therapy. I didn't come into this with the set goal in mind of, okay, it's going to be this crazy like bipedal creature, but it's kneeling down. No, it just happened. And that's the fun part. All right, so let's get into why art is such good therapy. It encourages mindfulness. Okay, as you concentrate on your lines and shapes, you actually become more present in the moment. Okay, think about all those times when we're just not really present. We're kind of jittery. We haven't even had our caffeine, and we just feel like we can't concentrate. It's common. It's really common, especially when you have a lot of stuff that you're worried about, and you don't quite know how to get through the answer or to the answer. Okay, maybe drawing can be a nice way out of that. To kind of go more into that, it just helps you leave behind chaos. Okay, we've all experienced chaos in our lives, whether it's trying to get a job promotion, maybe you're going through marital problems, maybe your friend betrayed you, maybe your spouse lost your keys and you told them not to drive your car. Like who knows? Like I don't know, I'm just making stuff up. It fosters self-expression. We all have a personality that's probably dying to get out. Okay, I know, firsthand experience. I was an introvert for years. I was shy. I'm not really shy anymore. It's I grew out of it. I just became more assertive because I needed to. Kind of like I got kicked in the pants a couple times with life, and over this past couple years, COVID had nothing to do with it. But just a lot of stuff has happened to me, and I'm more assertive now. But it does allow negative thoughts to just fade away. And then, look, this to me is a form of meditation. It really is. So each one of you listening right now probably has something that you do during the night or during the day that is your meditation. It could be reading, it could be yoga, it could be quilting, it could be gardening, like whatever you want to do. Okay, I'm coming at it from an artistic point of view, just drawing creatures and characters and such. On a side note, I used to not believe that the higher ups in the art industry didn't have time to draw anymore. I always thought there was time to draw. And then as I started getting bigger jobs and bigger clients and realizing that it took up more of my time and energy into doing a good job, I totally see it. I totally see it. And I felt it. I still feel it. But this right here, my personal stuff, my personal doodling, your personal doodling, this kind of stuff is priceless. You can't put a price on mental health. Ever. I want you guys to remember that. So every time that I sketch in my notebook and I'm just doing little doodles here and there, I'm going to remind you all that your sketchbook is your diary. Okay, this is an outlet. It enables you to convey words sometimes, or it enables you to convey your own thoughts if you have trouble putting your thoughts into words. I guess I'm trying to say. You know, like, a lot of us have a hard time articulating what we're thinking, and that's why all of a sudden we kind of turn into a different person when we write or draw. It's crazy. So, actually, it happened a lot in video games too. You could be the quietest kid on the block, but all of a sudden you pop in Tekken Tag, or you pop in Doom, or FIFA, like, who knows? And all of a sudden you turn into a completely different human being. I actually don't know if this is going to have 4 legs. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's probably 6. I'm going to ghost in the shadow for 6 in the back, but I have to bring out some outlines in here. Okay. Comment below and let me know, and let us know, not just me, but let us know what's bothering you. You know, like, what do you view art as? I'm really curious to hear your thought process on art and how you guys use art to help you through your everyday life. Because look, I don't want you all to view art as a chore. It's not supposed to be a chore. It's supposed to be completely opposite of that. The other cool thing about sketching is that it actually helps you process complex emotions. It really does. Think about all the stuff that we feel during the day, but we just can't voice it, or we're too shy. Okay? Drawing allows you to voice your opinion and your view and everything without even having to say a word. Like, when I was growing up, I didn't voice my opinion a lot, like I should have. Like, I wasn't really assertive. And I would come home and I would just draw crazy monsters that were really loud. Kind of like this guy right here. You know how he's just opening his mouth and all of a sudden, I don't know, is this a worm? Yeah, let's just make this a worm. Why not? Like a caterpillar worm. That's disgusting. But anyway, yeah, that would happen. And it was a nice outlet. It allowed me to just free up my mind, and I didn't really think about much in the process. Because again, this is supposed to be therapeutic, right? Plus, if you stick around, I'm going to show you a neat little trick with some colored pens. So stick around, and you might learn something kind of cool. Hopefully you're learning something cool here. I'm really keeping things simple. This is a 4B pencil from Faber-Castell, and then I'm using moleskin paper because that is my personal favorite. I like the smoothness of it, and I don't know, I've just been using moleskin ever since college, and it just kind of stuck with me. You know how you just use one tool and you never use anything else. Like, it doesn't matter really what paper you can use printer paper. I mean, you might not get the same effect on printer paper as you do moleskin, but it's there. You can draw on it. That's how I learned how to draw, man. Those are my roots. I will never give up printer paper. Ever, 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 ever. Good old Kansan, Strathmore. Like, just some really good stuff that you can get. I might be spending a little bit more time on these thumbnails too. I'm having a lot of fun doing this. I hope you guys are having fun too. Regardless of what you're sketching right now. If you're sketching along with me, you're sketching some beasties, good. Let's see what you got. Oh, that is awful. You're going to hear me from time to time going, that's awful, that sucks. It's just me being hard on myself. Okay. Let's see, what else can we talk about? Yeah, and not to sound all cheesy and emotional and everything, but whatever you're going through in life, it could be a death in the family, it could be family strain, boyfriend, girlfriend strain, whatever. Drawing really can be a pathway to emotional recovery. It can. It's like journaling. You know, like we've all been through breakups before. Okay, breakups. Whew, you're talking about something that affects you on a deeper level more than most things a human can go through. It's just mind-boggling how much a breakup affects you. If you ever go through that, just know that journaling and drawing, it can definitely help you heal your mind. Keeps your mind off things. You want to stay active too. You know, you really want to heal your mind. You got to stay active. Stay productive. Drawing is productive too. Okay, I like this guy. He's kind of neat. You know, a good little trick. If ever you see the end of a snout, a chin, a tentacle, a tongue, a spike, color the end of it and fade it off into the body, and it draws attention to the end, and it gives you illusion that it's finished. You just fade it in, and that area looks done. And then I won't touch it. Wait, no, I am going to touch it. Don't tell anybody. Well, it's kind of hard for me to get away with that. It's on YouTube now. But anyway, I'm going to put some tone in these spikes on the back. Another really cool trick whenever you're doing spikes or creatures in general, if you're going to put horns or a row of horns or some kind of skin growth, wherever the highest point is, if the skin bends, that's usually where the biggest spike is located. The biggest area, or the fleshiest area, the fattiest area on the side, those usually get the biggest treatment of scales. It's a neat trick. Try it out. No matter what you're drawing, just try that out. It really does work. Okay, let's do one more little critter, and then I'll show you a trick with this old pen that I got from my son, my oldest son, who is in first grade. Yes, I have a pen from his first grade. All right, so I'm just whipping around a shape right here. I don't know what I just drew, but it could be a very tall bug. Let's do that. These aren't bugs. This is just an alien. This is a serpent. This could be, well, no, it's a crustacean slash arachnid slash, okay, fine, it's a bug. Okay. But this one will probably be a bug too. It's kind of in the form of an iron. Like this is hollow right here, and this right here is not an eyeball. It's actually hollow. You see how all these markings are kind of going back and forth? Yeah, once they overlap each other, it forms its own texture, which is really fun. So again, I'm going to ask you to comment below and just tell me what you're working on. See if people can help you too. Join our Discord, Creature Design Workshop Discord. It's not just for creature designers. Okay, and I also run a private mentorship too. The funniest thing is happening. All right, I'm having so much fun with my mentorship, but I also get inquiries where people are afraid to join because they don't think they're good enough to join my mentorship. That's backwards. I take all skill levels. The whole reason to take a mentorship is so that you get skills. Remember that. There's no judgment. You can be a very good sketcher. You can be a total beginner and you just are starting out on your artistic journey. You can be a veteran. Like, it doesn't matter. I take all skill levels. There are things that I still learn. I've been drawing for 40 years and there are still things that I learn. Especially about anatomy. Here I am. I'm a creature and character concept artist for games and film, and I still learn about anatomy every single day. That's why it's so much fun. All right, this is what I'm talking about. See this colored pen? So what you do, just take some color. Let's test this out. Right over there. That kind of looks blue. Ugh, that doesn't show up well. Let's do, I got an idea. How about this yellow? I wonder if that'll show up on, oh, it does. It's like green now. So what I'm doing is I'm just adding some skin tone with some hatching in that pen. I don't know if it's showing up well, but it might. Maybe I'll have to run it across this head right here. Just push a little darker. Huh. Interesting. I think red will probably look good with that one. So let's see if red can show up there. Oh, there it is. There's the red. Oh, we might do red war paint on everything. Because when all else fails, you do red war paint on everything. But maybe these are nature stripes. You know what I haven't done in a very long time? I have not drawn dinosaurs. Dinosaurs were my go-to growing up. So much so that I obsessed about all the species and I could name all of them. Man, it was crazy. And they're discovering new stuff. It seems like every month they're just discovering new stuff. I'll never forget the controversy that the Giganotosaurus caused because it was as big, if not bigger than T-Rex, and then all the T-Rex gatekeepers were like, nope, T-Rex is stronger, its jaw is built like a bull. It can definitely chomp harder than a Giganotosaurus. And then all of a sudden, in the Jurassic Park, the Giganotosaurus dispatches the T-Rex quite easily. So I guess that angered a lot of T-Rex fans. It was funny. Let me know if you're excited about the new Jurassic Park. I am, because I heard that they're going back to the roots. They're actually making it scary. I don't know why they did away with that. Okay, so I guess some of the colors work. I don't know. Maybe an orange will show up. I think that needs to be orange on the front. Oh yeah, that's kind of cool. Maybe it's like a yellow. I don't know. All right, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in to this little sketch session. I had a blast doing this. I love teaching you all about thumbnailing, and hopefully this little talk about art therapy helps you in some way. Check the links in the description again. Let me know if you would like a mentorship by me. I run it through the Discord. You can also join the Discord just to snoop around if you want. Okay, let me know what your artistic goals are in the comments if you liked it. And I'll see y'all next time. Peace.